Welcome back to another UCL Fantasy Deadline stream, this time out of Matchday 5, and there is still a lot to talk about. Will Osimhen start? That will be confirmed later today, but it does seem like he will not get the nod, and we'll see the likes of Icardi, Yilmaz and Sane start in that front line for Galatasaray, but all those early kickoffs will be covered. The same goes for predicted lineups for every single match. I'll be highlighting the key ones in terms of UCL fantasy prospects and focusing on those assets we're interested in. We might even have them already, or we're looking to buy them in on the Limitless wildcard or using free transfers. And I'll be honest, I was even keen and open-minded to just using 2 free transfers and selling Dumfries and Gabriel, who are both red flagged, but Ben Sebaini will probably not start, and it looks like Yildiz will also be on the bench for Juventus. So I could be down to 11 players from the get-go. Even with 2 free transfers at my disposal, I would still have a few players missing. So this is a good time to use the Limitless in my opinion. And even with a wild card, it can work in certain situations. I just think the timing's a bit awkward. The same could be said about FPL going into Game Week 13, which I'll talk about over the coming days. But I just think there are a lot of top teams facing each other, like Arsenal with Bayern Munich, Inter Milan, Atletico Madrid, Chelsea and Barcelona, and I think Matchday 6 or 7 could be a better time to deploy the wildcard chip. Now, conversely, you could say the same thing about the Limitless, and I understand that. On paper, I think Matchday 7 has the best fixtures, but if you have both chips remaining, my advice is to use the Limitless in Matchday 5, especially if you have a lot of short-term injuries and suspensions, and then in Matchday 6 or 7, preferably in 6, I will deploy the wildcard chip for the final 3 match days of the season. No matter what you do, my recommendation is to not use the Limitless in Matchday 8 because you can't fully maximize the main appeal of the Limitless, which is having no budget restrictions, because essentially those that wildcard in Matchday 8 or even with free transfers, they can cheap out their bench and focus all their funds on the starting 11 and match everyone who is playing the Limitless chip in that particular week. I'm more open about the wildcard for that particular match day, and I'll talk about that as we get closer to January, but ultimately both chips should be used in the group stage in my opinion, especially the Limitless. I can't stress that enough, and Matchday 5 or 7 would stand out above the rest. Let's get straight into the comments. Drop a like on this stream, subscribe to the channel. There is going to be a lot of content, a lot of graphics, team news, injury updates, and information in this stream. And if you find it insightful, then all of the support that you give is greatly appreciated. A big up to all the super chatters, the members, patrons, and also those that gift memberships. And the same goes for the subscribers. We're looking to close in on 38k on YouTube, and let's build all my social media platforms. There's my Discord server for UCL Fantasy and FPL updates. There's my Twitter, Instagram, and Blue Sky, and you can also be notified of when I upload on YouTube. And there's plenty more that came from. That includes my Spotify and the UCL Fantasy League. The code is SEINOF, and you'll see it in most of the screens today. Agustin says, Dale Loco. Easy, with a lot of messages saying top 5 teams to target. Well, Arsenal and Bayern Munich would be teams to target after Matchday 5, but not right now. I think Man City would be one of the standouts, but let's also not forget that they face Real Madrid in Matchday 6. But I think they would spring to mind. PSG would be up there. It's all essentially covered though in my wildcard and Limitless videos. I still think Napoli could be worth the investment with 1 or 2 assets. I don't think Karabag will be a pushover, but Napoli have promising fixtures on paper. So those are some ideas already of teams you could invest in. One of Marseille or Newcastle. I'd be leaning towards Newcastle in general. Maybe not for that match against Marseille specifically, but just a bit longer term. So Anthony Gordon, who should be available now for Matchday 5. You've got Dan Burn. Trippier is basically ruled out, and all of this will be covered later on in this stream. What's happening in the Madrid locker? Will it affect what happens in the future? Well, certainly, because we could see a change of manager. They are winless in 3 matches, but they're still top of La Liga. And some players like Mbappe reportedly do like Xabi Alonso. But then you've got a few others like Vinicius Jr., who reportedly isn't going to sign a new contract if Xabi Alonso remains in charge. So there's a lot of turbulence going around, but it's kind of typical with these big clubs. And I'm not too surprised, to be honest. Avoid buying Liverpool players and buying players from teams against them, but they are 8th in the Champions League table. So as bad as they have been with 8 losses out of the last 11 matches, yeah, they're still 8th with 3 wins out of 4 in the Champions League. So maybe that's not the case in this competition. We'll find out, of course, by the end of this week. But yeah, I think Liverpool are a bit of a weird one. They still have a lot of quality, and once they get things right, they will still be very interesting. Hey Dylan, my current team, I have Dumfries, Gabriel, Trippier, who are all out. Should I take 2 free transfers to sell 2 of them, or sell 1 of them and one of my attackers? I would just focus on the defenders, because With the exception of Yilmaz, is that... Okay, it's Yilmaz, it's not Yildiz. Yilmaz will start, and the same goes for everybody else you've mentioned unless something happens. So, yeah, focus on your defense. I'd make 2 free transfers there. Keep it simple. Yeah, same here, Banjo, ready for some football. Some big matches happening this week. Thank you, Ignacio, as always. So, Raya, Carnesecchi, DeMarco, Dumfries, Gabriel, Benzabani, Fermi Lopez, Ahano, Elise, Saka, Gula, Yilmaz, Kylian Mbappe, Haaland, and Julian Alvarez. Dudo si Limitless o Julian, Osimhen y Dumfries, Gabriel por un -4. Creo que en tu caso es mejor usar el sin límites. Agustín says, una pregunta, si gasto mis 2 fichajes de la fecha y después uso el sin límites, ¿esos 2 fichajes nuevos los sigo manteniendo? No. If you take a look at Madrid's squad list, they don't get so many defenders, so is Trent a good pick on Limitless? Well, not necessarily, because they're missing key defenders and players in general, so you would argue their chance of a clean sheet are weaker, and Courtois is ruled out. That's an update that we got today from Real Madrid, so I'm less keen on covering their defense in general, but if you were to pick one, it's between Trent Alexander-Arnold and Dean Howson. Good to see you, FPL Kevy. Yeah, it is a good week to use a chip, more so the Limitless in my opinion, because I think for a lot of people, you might have Bayern Munich and Arsenal players, Barca, Chelsea, Atletico, Juventus, and you want them for matchday 6 and beyond, with the exception of Inter Milan because of their fixtures, but I think the Limitless is probably perfect on paper for matchday 5. You could argue that a lot of the top teams and, premium assets don't have great fixtures, but you can reshuffle your team just for one matchday only and then go back to how it was beforehand, where I think your original wildcard squad from matchday 2 or 3, and some people are well set up anyway, they will have a nice foundation for the last 3 matchdays of the campaign. But there's going to be rotation in every single game coming up, especially matchday 7 and 8, and there are going to be a lot of curveballs thrown at us, so we need to adapt, but I think matchday 5 is very good for the Limitless. All the big hitters are in. Yeah, I've seen some people kind of question it. So even Harry Kane, great record against Arsenal. I think he's got 15 goals against them. Yamal has been scoring and assisting in virtually every single game this season. I know Chelsea have been in good form, but come on, Barcelona can definitely score against them. And Lamine Yamal is one of the very best players in world football. So I do agree that naturally I'd gravitate towards those expensive players. Not in every single case though. Vinicius Jr., for example, I'm less keen on since recording that Limitless video. Yeah, Foden, Yamal, viable and Limitless. Yeah, they still are, as I just covered. And Foden has a good fixture on paper, despite Bayer Leverkusen being in good form recently. So there's a lot of questions to get through, so I'm going to prioritize the members. As usual, that's one of the main perks of being a member or patron. And afterwards, I'll answer in order of submission. If I don't answer a question of yours or highlight a message, then you can put it forward again a few minutes later, but just don't spam the chat, otherwise you will not be answered. I'm going to try to answer as many as possible, so just be patient. Benzabani is in training, but I don't think he'll start, personally. And every single predicted lineup I've seen doesn't include Benzabani. You will see all the updates later on in graphics and on screen, rather than just me talking about it. Welcome, Barif. Good to see you. What are your predictions for today's matches? Well, I can show you Predict 6 in a little bit, and afterwards build upon that with, kind of an assessment of every single match. I'll do that in a little while. If I do forget, then definitely remind me. Hey, Dylan, hope you're well. Thoughts on Vlahovic? I'm not a massive fan, but he is one of the better players up front to replace Osimhen, who I don't think will start in the early kickoff today. I'll be honest, though. With the Limitless being very likely, in my situation, I might just go for Harry Kane alongside Mbappe and Haaland, which I already have. But essentially what I'm doing is really improving my defensive line. Even the goalkeepers would be massively upgraded for matchday 5 only. And also Yildiz will likely be benched according to Sky Sports Italia. So I can make a few improvements in the midfield and also completely reinvigorate my defensive line. But yeah, it's a tough one. I think Vlahovic would be in the top 5 or 6 forwards for matchday 5. And reports indicate that Højlund will be available against Karabag in the kickoff later today. So you could also consider him, but I think Vlahovic would be my preference. Yeah, hopefully Harrison James, Green Arrows is what we kind of strive for. Yeah, Osimhen, I think, will be in the squad. That's what several journalists have indicated, but I don't think he'll start. They're just trying to get his match sharpness and rhythm ready for the huge clash at the weekend against Fenerbahce. I just don't think they'll risk him as a starter, though. Either way, with Osimhen, of course, he is the man on the thumbnail. He'll be a big talking point this week, but honestly, it's just worth waiting an hour or so, as I usually say, when we have an early kickoff and we can get this information before the deadline. If you want to have Osimhen, who would you remove from your team? well, it would be Harry Kane, but just for matchday 5 only, and that's why the Limitless would be very appealing. And actually, if Osimhen does start, I wouldn't expect him to play 90 minutes, but that would make me even more appealed by the Limitless, because I would want Harry Kane from matchday 6 onwards, but I think Osimhen would be better this week if he does start, which I don't think will be the case, but that's why things can change so quickly in UCL Fantasy, and I typically wait until the early kickoffs, have as much information as possible, and then make informed decisions before the deadline locks in. Yeah, Osimhen is injured. I covered this in all of my videos, essentially, so if you watched him, you will have a good idea about that, but he's recovering from an injury. He's going to be back very soon, and it looks like he will be available for the weekend against Fenerbahce. But as for matchday 5, I don't think he's going to start. And like I just mentioned a minute or two ago, we're going to get the lineup for Galatasaray in over an hour's time. So the kickoffs are at 5:45 p.m. in the UK. So that's still 2 hours, 24 minutes away. But we typically get the lineups in, just an hour, 1 hour, 15 minutes before the kickoffs. So basically at 4:30 p.m. in the UK, in just over an hour's time, we should get clarity. And then we can make a final decision on Osimhen. Kane does love a goal against Arsenal, to be fair. Sorry, lol, also always hard to pick players up against your team. No, I get that, but maybe it's a bit different in my case, because the way I see it, if I pick a player and he's playing against Arsenal and he scores, well, I'm not happy about it, but at least I gain something from it. So I wouldn't say I see it as a win-win, but I can gain something from it if, Harry Kane does score. I get some UCL fantasy points for my sorrows and sins. And yeah, Harry Kane, a lot of them have been from penalties, just saying, but even just a few years ago, when Arsenal drew 2-2 against Bayern Munich, yeah, Bayern got a penalty at the Emirates and Harry Kane dispatched it. So he's a quality player. He's probably the best striker in world football. So even without them, he's got a good chance of scoring in any given match, but he's up against the best defence in Europe. I think Yildiz will be benched. I just covered that. Falcon says, hey Dylan, I don't have chips left. Current team, Raya, Karnasechi, Dumfries, Bachel, Gabriel, Van der Ven, Byrne, Paxao, Elise, Vitinha, Kvaratskhelia, Fermi Lopez, Haaland, Mbappe, Rashford. I'd focus on those injured players and Dumfries and Gabriel. Keep it simple. Sell those two. I don't know what money you've got in the bank, but Virgil van Dijk could be a decent replacement. I would go for Nuno Mendes, though. He is the standout defender to replace Dumfries or Gabriel. And it just depends on your budget, who you can go for as your second transfer. Di Lorenzo could spring to mind as a set and forget option for the league phase, but he has been poor in terms of UCL fantasy output. Kanate could be a cheaper alternative to Virgil van Dijk. So that will be my recommendation, but definitely buy Nuno Mendes to replace one of Gabriel or Dumfries, and ultimately I'd sell both of them. Hi Dylan, is Yildiz still worth including? No, because it looks like he'll be benched. I'm not saying it's gospel. There is a chance he still starts, but at least with Inter Milan, Sky Sports Italia have been very reliable when it comes to predicted lineups, and in the one I saw earlier, and you'll see graphics and stuff like that very soon, Yildiz is not in the predicted 11. I also saw a comment by Spalletti in his press conference which indicated that Yildiz will be rested. Carreras or Bensabani on Limitless. Bensabani is in training, but he likely won't start, so I would go for Carreras. I'm not a massive fan of either, to be honest. If Bensabani was available and we knew he was going to start, he would be on my wildcard. I think he's a great option for the remainder of the league phase, but unfortunately, he is managing an injury, and of course, he's going off with Algeria to the African Cup of Nations very soon. Is Pavlidis a good shout? I think he's decent. I made that mistake. To be fair, I almost went from him match day 1. He scored a goal. Was still a bit underwhelming there against Karabag. But yeah, I think against Ajax, I would favour Benfica a little bit more. They're showing more consistency across all competitions. Ajax are winless in 4 matches, I believe. They lost yet again over the weekend. And a few weeks ago, they changed their manager. But they're still struggling. They're 6th in the Eredivisie. And they're also bottom of the Champions League. Benfica are much better in 35th, but I would back them to get a win, actually, and Pavlidis is okay. Yeah, I think Rashford will start against Chelsea, but Rafinha is in the squad, and the same goes for Joan Garcia, who made his return over the weekend in a comprehensive win for Barcelona. With Gabriel and Dumfries out and so many possible rotations, it's almost mandatory to use Limitless. Yes, and if you've also got Yildiz and Bensabani like myself, they probably won't start, so then you're down to 11 players. Even with 2 free transfers, I can get to 13 starters, but I think the Limitless could result in massive improvements in the defence and midfield. So I think it's a natural consequence of using the wildcard quite early. I got some big green arrows, and after a poor start to the season, I went from 200, 300,000 to where I am now in the top 8k because of the wildcard. But now you're going to have some complications of injuries, suspensions, and other factors. Always a pleasure hanging with you, Dylan. Sub and like, everyone. Thank you very much. Hey, Dylan, who do you think will be better, Bellingham or McTominay? Long-term McTominay. For Matchday 5 specifically, it's very close. I might go for both of them in the end, actually, but I would lean towards Bellingham. Thank you, Falcon. Yeah, Lunin should start in Courtois' absence, but with Real Madrid having so many injuries and Courtois missing is such a massive blow for them, I am less keen on Real Madrid defensively, but that is still probably my plan with the Limitless chip, and I will show you my kind of updated Limitless squad based on all the updates we got on Monday and Tuesday, but yeah, I think Lunin is still one of the standout goalkeepers for Matchday 5, not long-term though. Yeah, I've said this many times, and I try to be as clear as possible, so I've kept my options open, but it's becoming increasingly more likely that I'll use the Limitless because I've got 2 injured players in Gabriel and Dumfries. Ben Sabani will probably not start. The same goes for Yildiz, according to the reports I've seen. And I can make other upgrades, especially for Matchday 5 specifically, and keep players like Kane, who I want from Matchday 6 to 8, as long as Bayern don't start rotating because they're in such a strong position in the Champions League. So a Bayern loss would be perfect on all fronts for me. Foden or Jude? I think Foden for Matchday 5, but I like both. On a Limitless, I'd go for the 2 of them. Sí, como dije en inglés, recomiendo el Sin Límites para la jornada 5. Best Copenhagen assets in your opinion? Not many have really sprung to mind. You could just go for any of their starting defenders. Against Kara Almaty, they're second now in the clean sheet odds, so they went up a little bit. They ultimately still share the same percentage as Real Madrid, I believe, but you'll see those figures very soon. But there aren't many players that stand out for me from Copenhagen, but if I had to kind of highlight 1 or 2, I would probably say Larson up front. He's 5.2 million. He's not really someone you'd want to include on the Limitless per se, but with Osimhen potentially not starting tonight, which I don't think he will, then that could be a decent alternative. Very under the radar with 0% ownership essentially. So yeah, a lot of these Copenhagen players will be big differentials. Any returns you get from them will be massive, but I look at their defenders and they're all, well, they have been pretty poor. They've shipped in multiple goals so far. They're in the bottom 6, 7 in the Champions League table. So, yeah, I think Larsen's the standout, actually, up front. Kara Almaty could still score. So we do have over 400 people watching already. Let's get the likes up. The aim will be to get to over 400 likes. That'll be the ambitious one, but certainly over 300 by the end of the stream. And let's close in on new goals like 38k, which is going to be the huge aim by the end of the calendar year. And 40,000 will be the next big objective going into 2026. Best third striker on Limitless, probably Kane still. Yeah. If Osimhen doesn't start, then I would go for Harry Kane. If you're not really too keen on Kane, then maybe Vlahovic would be the next one in line. I just mentioned Larsen. You might even be keen on Burka, another budget forward. But yeah, the likes of Lautaro and Alvarez playing each other. Very difficult game to call there. Rashford. I just think Yamal's enough coverage for Barcelona offensively, but Rashford's not too shabby. Decent record against Chelsea as well. Mano puts his 15-man squad. So a lot of people in a similar situation here. So you've already got Nuno Mendes, that's good. You don't have Gabriel or Dumfries, which is also quite helpful, actually. But yeah, I'm not sure what this is. It looks like a Limitless squad. That's what it looks like to me. It has to be. So the other goalkeeper could be Lunin, just to replace Courtois and have that Madrid defensive coverage, but you've already got Trent there, to be fair. And you've got Vinicius Mbappe, so you would maybe struggle for a goalkeeper today. Yeah, looking at the goalkeepers from today's matches, maybe Milinkovic-Savic against Karabakh, but I think Napoli could concede. So the Galatasaray goalkeeper could be another one to look at. Oh, yeah, but actually you said you got Donnarumma, so he plays today. So you need someone from tomorrow. Maybe go for the Copenhagen goalkeeper. I wouldn't be backing a clean sheet necessarily. I'm not that confident in their defense. Alisson Becker against PSV at home, if you want to go there. I think that's what I'd kind of lean towards then. That's my answer. You will see, by the way, my updated Limitless team, and I'm going to be building one myself because it's very likely I'll activate that chip before the end of this deadline stream. But let's go for a few different screens first, and let's start off with the UCL Fantasy League. As I mentioned towards the beginning, you can join very easily. There is an auto-join link in the description. The code is SEINOF. And for Predict 6, I've currently gone for Marseille 2, Newcastle 2, Man City 3, Bayer Leverkusen 1, Chelsea 2, Barcelona 2, Liverpool 2, PSV 1, and the same scoreline in favour of Arsenal against Bayern Munich, and Atletico Madrid 1, Inter Milan 1, but these are probably subject to change. I'm also going to show you this poll I put out yesterday, and most of you are going for the Limitless. It's quite close between that and normal transfers, and the wildcard is last with 15%. I believe it's quite awkward to wildcard this week, especially because you would want Arsenal and Bayern Munich players from Matchday 6 onwards. Just to name 2 examples, there's also Barcelona, maybe Chelsea, and the likes of Atletico Madrid to factor into that equation. So this is one predicted lineup that I've seen, and it's identical to the one I've got prepared in my graphics already. So as you can see, no Osimhen. There's no point really, talking about Osimhen too much like right now. Once we get the confirmed lineup, that's when we can, make an informed decision and stuff like that. But it looks like Icardi will start up front, and Yilmaz, who scored a goal and got an assist over the weekend, he's in my current UCL fantasy team. He should start alongside Leroy Sané in that front three. So, as I mentioned earlier as well, Courtois is injured, so Lunin should start against Olympiacos tomorrow, but that was confirmed today. You can see this in Spanish, but yeah, this has been confirmed by multiple sources. I speak Spanish myself. Courtois will be out for Matchday 5. So this is the quote by Spalletti about Yildiz, and I'm very confident that he's not going to start in Matchday 5. So he said, Yildiz can't always be at the maximum. It's natural to have dips. Rest is part of the game. Sometimes you must sit out and encourage your teammates. And then you see this probable 11 by Sky Sports Italia, and it's got Perrin, Kalulu, Kelly, Koopmeiners, Cambiasso, Locatelli, Adsic, Kostic, Conceição, McKennie, Openda, and there you go. That is the starting 11 there for Juventus, and Yildiz will not play. Based on that quote I just read out to you and this starting 11 prediction by Sky Sports Italia. This is also a predicted 11 for Liverpool, courtesy of This Is Anfield, and they think that Alisson, Robertson, Van Dijk, Kanate and Gomez will start, with McAllister, Gravenberch, Gakpo, Szoboszlai, Salah and Ekitike. So before I go to my team selection graphics, and you can see some of my transfer plans, how I did in Matchday 4, and for those that maybe didn't watch my team selection, this will be like a little recap. Let's go through every single major 11, let's say. So Ajax, Benfica, I'd lean towards Benfica in that fixture and look at the likes of Pavlidis if you are struggling for that third forward, but I will read out the players who are ruled out there for Ajax, Berghuis and Van den Boomen. Doubtful players include, what name is that? And Lucas Rosa. And the same player that I said woe to could be suspended if he is booked. So bear in mind that the threshold for yellow cards and a suspension is 2 bookings. So if you get 2 bookings, you'll be suspended for the next Champions League match. So for Benfica, Bar, Bruma and Luca Bacchio are out. No doubtful players, and the suspension risks are Luca Bacchio and Otamendi. And for Galatasaray, this is yet another example of Osimhen not being in the starting 11, and the prediction is identical to what I just read out to you. Singo and Aggun are out, whilst Lemina, Ayhan, Cthulhu and Osimhen are doubtful. Jakobs will miss the next game if he's booked. For Union Saint-Gilloise, Layson is out with an ankle injury, whilst McAllister and Van der Per will miss the next game if booked. And for Borussia Dortmund, no Ben Sebaini, despite the fact that he is in training. Now, these are just predictions, what I'm reading out to you right now. So some of this will be inaccurate, but it is a nice reference point. So Süle is out for Borussia Dortmund, Bayer is doubtful, and there are no suspension risks at the moment. And for Villarreal, Cambuala is out with a hamstring injury, whilst Gay, Mourinho and Renato Vega will miss the next game if booked. And for that massive game between Chelsea and Barcelona, which I'll be watching later, they haven't gone for Gusto in their predicted 11. If UEFA are correct, so not just Denzel Dumfries and Gabriel who are injured for me, but Ben Sebaini and Yildiz probably won't start, and then it could be Gusto as well. So I could be down to 10 players. So that's why the Limitless is very useful in my situation. I've already used the wild card, and I don't like this week for that chip, to be quite honest with you. So Colwill, Lavia, and Palmer are out, but Cole Palmer is back in training, and he could actually return for Game Week 13 in FPL, which I'll cover in the coming days. Fofana is doubtful, and Andre Santos is a suspension risk. For Barcelona, Joan Garcia should return to the starting 11 as he did over the weekend. Gavi, Pedri, and ter Stegen are out. Rashford is not in this predicted 11, so it's not an absolute guarantee that he starts, and Rafinha will be in the squad. Balde is doubtful, whilst Casado, De Jong, Fermi Lopez, and Yamal are all suspension risks. One more booking, and they will miss Matchday 6. So for Bodo Glimt, Gunderson is suspended, and Brian Hildson has a knee injury, whilst Haig is ill, and the likes of Berg and Auckland are suspension risks. For Juventus, Yildiz is in this UEFA predicted 11, but I don't think he'll start. That's just my opinion based on the reports I've seen. Sky Sports Italia, I do trust for Inter Milan. Let's see if they are correct with Juventus as well. And that Spalletti comment definitely put me off Yildiz big time. Bremer, Pinsoglio, and Rugani are out, whilst Cambiasso will miss the next match if booked. For Man City against Bayer Leverkusen, Donnarumma should start. That's not really anything surprising, but we could see a few changes and rotation for Manchester City. They've got Leeds at the weekend as well, but Kovacic is out, Rodri remains doubtful, Bernardo Silva and Savinho are going to miss the next game if booked. And for Bayer Leverkusen, Andrik is still suspended, Fernandes and Tapsoba are also out, with the latter also being suspended. Lucas Vazquez is doubtful with a muscle injury. And moving on to Marseille versus Newcastle. So yeah, just give me a second. Just a few technical difficulties. So, Agerd, Guri, Murillo, and Traore are all out. Agerd and Pavard will miss the next game if booked. And for Newcastle, Visser is still unavailable. The same goes for Asula, whilst Gordon and Trippier are doubtful. But based on the reports I saw today, and you'll see them very soon, Trippier is out and Gordon is with the squad. Joelinton is, unsurprisingly, a suspension risk. And moving on to Slavia Prague against Athletic Bilbao, Dawley is out, whilst Moses, Schranz, and Zafaris are doubtful. Mboji will miss the next game if booked. That was butchered, but it is what it is. Sanadi, Serrano, and Iñaki Williams are also unavailable, whilst Paredes will miss the next game if booked. And for the last game of the Tuesday, with Napoli, they're expecting Højlund to start, and I agree with them. I think Di Lorenzo, McTominay would be the standouts in general, and on the wild card, Milinkovic-Savic with Carnesecchi is one of the best goalkeeper pairings for Matchday 5 and beyond. So Spinazzola is doubtful, whilst Anguissa, De Bruyne and Gilmour are not going to feature in Matchday 5. And for Karabag, they've got no players who are out, no doubtful players, and Silva is the only suspension risk. So let's now move on quickly to the Wednesday. Copenhagen could be of interest, facing Kara Almaty at home, but Delaney, Hodger, Matson and Melling are unavailable, whilst Laraga and Lopez will miss the next match if booked. And for Kara Almaty, they've got 3 suspension risks in Jorginho, Arad and Sapayev. Nice name. For Paphos versus Monaco, João Carreira is suspended. And for Monaco, Dyer and Mawisa are out. In a massive clash between Arsenal and Bayern Munich for the top of the Champions League table, Gabriel and Havertz are unavailable. I think Gyökeres wasn't spotted in training today, but Odegaard was training alongside Gabriel Jesus. So Arsenal could now be down to just 3 injuries, with some key players returning over the weekend in Madueke and Martinelli, and now Odegaard, who is such a massive boost there for the Gunners. Declan Rice will miss the next game if booked. And for Bayern Munich, Davis, Diaz and Musiala are out. In the case of Diaz, his suspension has actually increased to 3 matches now. Gnabry is doubtful, but in a predicted 11 by Kicker, I believe, he was in it for Bayern Munich. Another massive game is between Atletico Madrid versus Inter Milan. So Lenormand is out. Llorente and Oblak are doubtful, so we could see Musso start in goal. And in terms of suspension risk, that's Lenglet and Lenormand. For Inter Milan, Darmian, Dumfries and Mkhitaryan are out. There are no doubtful players and no suspension risks. For Frankfurt Atalanta, Højlund, Larsen and Ussen are unavailable. And with Atalanta, Scalvini is doubtful with an abductor injury. Darun and Musa will miss the next match if booked. Let me actually get this comment off screen. Apologies for that, since I already answered that a while ago and it is getting in the way of the lineups. But I will put a link in the live chat. And yeah, you can also see most of this anyway by pausing and rewinding whenever you need to. So Frimpong and Bradley are out for Liverpool. Wirtz is doubtful. He shouldn't be back. Sorry, he should be back fairly soon. Bradley is a suspension risk as well. Van Bommel is out for PSV Eindhoven, while Saibari will miss the next game if booked. So for Olympiacos Real Madrid, Dani Garcia is the only suspension risk for the home side. And in the case of Real Madrid, Alaba, Carvajal, Courtois, Eder Militao, Howson, Rudiger are all unavailable. So naturally, Trent Alexander-Arnold is the best defender. So that's something to correct from earlier. Howson featured over the weekend, but he got a knee injury in that 2-2 draw against Elche. So he won't be available based on this information. And I think Trent, Bellingham and Mbappe are the standout players for Real Madrid here. So Rudiger's also out and Mastantuono is doubtful, whilst Carreras will miss the next game if booked. Moving on to PSG against Tottenham, Doué and Hakimi are unavailable. Dembele is doubtful, but he was in training and it looks like he will be in the squad on Wednesday night. Nuno Mendes is a suspension risk. That's the only downside to buying him in, but I will almost certainly be doing so, even on the Limitless or with free transfers. And for Tottenham Hotspur, Davis, Johnson and Solanke are unavailable. Colomwani, Richarlison and Van de Ven will miss the next game if booked. And for Sporting against Club Brugge, we've got a lot of injuries there for Sporting. That includes De Bast, Daniel, I'll call him, Pedro Gonçalves, another complicated name, that's a Greek player, Ionadis, okay, let's just go for that. Nuno Santos and the likes of Araujo and Pedro Gonçalves will miss the next game if booked. And for Club Brugge, Meja, Mignolet and Rees are out. And that's it. That covers all the predicted lineups. And have a look now at the live chat because I'm providing a link to what I just read out in that live chat. So it's very easy for you to have a look yourself. And once Galatasaray confirm the lineup in an hour's time, we can see if Osimhen starts or not. I don't think he will, as I've mentioned consistently. And it's not just that. We've also got the Ajax Benfica lineups to look at as well, and Union Saint-Gilloise and how they'll fare against Galatasaray. So let me now show you my team selection graphics. I made a few changes to kind of focus specifically on Limitless transfers, which is going to be the kind of play for Matchday 5 for many people. You can see how I did in Matchday 4 with Ryan Gabriel keeping clean sheets, but unfortunately Gabriel is injured. The same goes for Dumfries, who was disappointing against Kara Almaty. Dan Burn was the standout defensively with that amazing goal against Athletic Bilbao, and Ben Sabani is always getting ball recoveries or points in one way, shape or form. He's the main penalty taker for Dortmund, but it doesn't look like he will start in Matchday 5. At least he's in training though, and that's good news for Dortmund and Algeria. Igor Paxel blanked as one of my new signings. Yildiz has been a poor UCL fantasy pick since Matchday 1 where he got a massive return against Dortmund, but the reports indicate that Yildiz will not start in Matchday 5. And Yilmaz was a substitute in the previous Matchday, but he should start now in the early kickoff, and he got a goal and assist over the weekend. Saka scored against Slavia Prague, and the same goes for Fermin Lopez in a free draw against Club Brugge, and Erling Haaland did the business, but only a 6 points from him as his baseline score. And on my bench, Kanasechi got 7 points, Kane and Mbappe blanked, and Gusto didn't even feature. He was a horrible signing for me, and I only did it because UCL Fantasy on the website app said I had free transfers, but after selling Van de Ven to Gusto, it showed that I took a -4 hit. So don't be caught out by the visual glitch after playing the Limitless or wildcard chip, because it could cost you a few points. But I still got a green arrow. It has been just a massive upward trajectory since using the wildcard back in Matchday 2. And these are some of the goalkeeper transfers I'm looking to make. So Raya to Donnarumma. And in terms of the other choice on the Wednesday, I think I'm still going for Lunin, but I'm quite open-minded to Alisson, for example. Maybe I'll go for the Copenhagen goalkeeper as well. And Gabriel to Van Dijk would be my preference, but with normal transfers, I can't afford this alongside Dumfries to Nuno Mendes. I would have to downgrade somebody else or take a -4 hit, and I don't think that's worthwhile. But Nuno Mendes is my priority in that defensive line, and he's perfect for the Limitless. So even if he's booked against Tottenham and gets a massive return, he might be suspended for Matchday 6, but that's no issue for those who went for him on the Limitless chip. So in the midfield, Yilmaz could do really well today. I'm not going to deny that, but Kvaratskhelia is still a massive upgrade in my opinion, and I would like a PSG attacker against Tottenham Hotspur. The final highlighted move is Kane to Osimhen, but that's only if the Nigerian starts. I don't think that'll be the case. So on the Limitless, I think Mbappe, Haaland and Kane is what I'll go for. Other strikers I'm considering include Vlahovic, Pavlidis, Højlund, but I think it's quite poor compared to some of the other weeks coming up, like in Matchday 7, where you could say that Kane, for example, will have a great fixture as well, but I still think Kane can do well against Arsenal, despite how good the Gunners have been so far this season. So what you see now is my team without making any transfers whatsoever, and let me just highlight the problems I've got. Even in goal, Karnasec away to Frankfurt isn't horrible, but I don't have that option on the Tuesday because both him and Raya both play on the same day in Matchday 5. And when I wildcarded in 2, I was aware of this problem, and I was quite keen on limitlessing in Matchday 5 anyway. So in my defensive line, Gusto I think will start against Barcelona for what it's worth, but in UEFA's predicted 11, Gusto isn't in it. So if that's the case, I could be down to 10 players without making any transfers. Di Lorenzo could come in, by the way, for one of my defenders like Gabriel or Dumfries, and of course Nuno Mendes would be the other transfer, so that could help things a little bit, but I could still be down to 12 or 13 players irrespective of those 2 free transfers. And in the case of Dan Burn, he's not too shabby against Marseille away, but not great either. I've got Igor Paxal on the other side of that clash. Yildiz will probably be benched, which is a massive shame, and Yilmaz I think is a good option. If you're looking for a budget midfielder, I'd recommend Yilmaz this week, and Fermin Lopez has been brilliant for me, and just signing him and getting that hat-trick against Olympiacos was the highlight of my UCL fantasy season so far. Mbappe, Kane and Haaland is still the best front three you can build, especially if Osimhen doesn't start later today. And on my bench, Raya at home to Bayern. Yeah, I'm naturally just going to go for Karnasec away to Frankfurt, even though in the clean sheet odds, Arsenal aren't that bad this week. Saka, I think, is a good option against Bayern. Nuno Mendes is a solid choice, and I would have been quite keen on Ben Sebaini, but I just don't think he's going to start in Matchday 5. With the captaincy, I'm keeping it simple. Erling Haaland on the Tuesday and Mbappe on the Wednesday. It doesn't matter if you're wildcarding, limitlessing, or using transfers. My advice is to go for that set of captaincy options. And even Harry Kane, as good as he is, I still think it's worth going for the other 2 when it comes to the captaincy. And that's what I'm going to do now, show you the updated clean sheet odds and goal scorer odds with my top 10 captains. So Napoli now have a 50% chance of a clean sheet, so it has gone down a little bit. Copenhagen are now second. Man City are third, so you could say they're technically joint second with 45%. PSG are fourth, facing Tottenham at home. Real Madrid and Liverpool complete the top 6. And Bayer Leverkusen are last with a 7% chance of keeping a clean sheet against Man City. Let's now show you the other clean sheet odds, which have also been updated. So Monaco are in 7th, facing Paphos away. Dortmund, Galatasaray, Sporting, Benfica, Athletic Club, Atletico Madrid, Arsenal, Juventus, Newcastle, Slavia Prague, Atalanta, Inter Milan, Marseille, Frankfurt, and Bayern Munich. That's the order of the clean sheet odds. And these stats are taken by the website fantasyfootballpundit.com. Chelsea, Ajax, Barcelona, Bodo Glimt, Villarreal, Club Brugge, Paphos, Union Saint-Gilloise, Olympiacos, Kara Almaty, PSV, Karabag, Tottenham, and Bayer Leverkusen. Those are the bottom teams when it comes to the clean sheet odds. But Erling Haaland is top of the goal scorer probabilities. I think it actually increased overnight to 70%. Mbappe is second. Isak, Osimhen, and Guirassy are in the top 5. But this is all the assumption that these players start, and that won't be the case in every single situation. Salah, Ousmane Dembele, Luis Suarez, Ekitike, Pavlidis. Also, you've got an option there from Copenhagen. He's right up there in the goal scorer odds. Biereth, Luka, but I think Højlund will start. And you've also got Jonathan David and Vlahovic, who is one of my favourite options for Matchday 5, which goes to show how much we're struggling to come up with forwards in this matchday. So the last thing I want to show you for this section is the top 10 captains. And Haaland is top, facing Bayer Leverkusen at home. Mbappe is second and Osimhen is third, but I don't think he'll start, and as a result, he will drop out of the top 10 entirely. Salah, Foden, Kvaratskhelia, Bellingham, Yamal, Kane and Guirassy complete the rest of the top 10. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section and in the live chat. Would you go for McTominay or someone a little bit left field to replace some of these big hitters in the midfield and forward line? And let's not forget defenders. Nuno Mendes could be very appealing against Tottenham Hotspur as well. So there is still more to cover. Some of these graphics you would have seen in my team selection. I'm just going to skim through them. I want to focus on the graphics that you haven't seen before because they include key injury updates and it will prepare you very well for Matchday 5 and beyond. And that's going to mainly be about the likes of Ben Sebaini and Dumfries and all these key players. So this is a predicted 11 for Galatasaray. It's the exact same as I showed you earlier. It's just a different source. So they're all kind of agreeing with each other. Even UEFA have an identical starting 11. So no Osimhen in the starting 11. Instead, it should be Icardi up front. And for Dortmund and Villarreal, you can see no Ben Sebaini in the predicted 11. This is according to Bully News. And with Arsenal Bayern Munich, kicker expect Raya, Timber, Saliba, Hincapié, Calafiori, Eze, Zubimendi, Rice, Saka, Marino and Trossard to be the starting 11. So an unchanged side from the 4-1 win against Tottenham. And for Bayern Munich, they won 6-2 over the weekend. They could start Neuer, Lima, Tar, Upamecano, Stanisic, Pavlovic, Kimmich, who had some problems with his ankle, I believe, but he said he's going to be fine and he'll do everything possible to play against Arsenal. Gnabry, Elise, Carl and Harry Kane. That should be Bayern Munich's starting 11. And for Galatasaray, there's a lot of things to talk about with Osimhen. This is one journalist who said, in Galatasaray, Osimhen, Lemina, Singo, Atgun, Ayhan and Kutlu did not participate in the last training session before the Union Saint-Gilloise match. And this was posted yesterday. But Osimhen is still expected to be in the squad for the game against the Belgian side. And the same journalist confirmed it a few hours later as well. So expect him to be a substitute. With Ben Sebaini, he's in training, but all the different predicted 11s I've seen don't have him in that sort of lineup. And Eddie Howe provided updates on Gordon and Trippier. So in the case of Gordon, he is fit after his hip injury, and he's with the Newcastle squad in Marseille. But Trippier is still feeling the effects of a hamstring problem, and Eddie Howe is not sure how long he'll be out for. And in the case of Denzel Dumfries, the injury is worse than initially feared. It's an ankle problem, and the fullback is expected to be out for a few weeks, and he'll return between the Serie A match between Genoa on December the 14th and the Supercoppa Italiana semi-final against Bologna on December the 19th. So that's a massive layoff there, and he's going to miss a few matches in UCL Fantasy. In the case of Napoli, Antonio Conte said Højlund and Ramani were substituted for technical reasons, but both are doing well. For Gilmour and Spinazzola, I can't tell you the recovery times. Lukaku is not yet ready. And with PSG, it does indicate that Kang In Lee could start, with Ousmane Dembele still having some issues, but there was a video that surfaced today of Ousmane Dembele training. I think Dembele will be a substitute, and PSG could start one of Gonzalo Ramos or Kang In Lee alongside Kvaratskhelia and Barcola. That would be my prediction, but we will see how things pan out. And with Barcelona, the kind of big boost for them are Rafinha, who's now finally back after missing several Champions League matches, and Joan Garcia was a starter over the weekend in a win for Barcelona as they closed the gap on Real Madrid in La Liga. And yeah, he should start against Chelsea in Matchday 5. So that's all covered. A lot of different news, injury updates, and everything you need to know. I actually want to go to the Limitless squad now and show you what I'm currently thinking, because there are still some details to iron out. I don't want to leave this to the last minute. So in goal, I will go for Donnarumma and have that Man City defensive coverage. But then it's quite difficult on the Wednesday. I would go for Lunin at the moment, but that is not set in stone. So all 5 defenders would be sold on the Limitless. And Nuno Mendes would come in. The same goes for Virgil van Dijk. Even Trent Alexander-Arnold is an option for me. But if I were to do that, I'd probably get rid of Lunin. And I did cover this, of course, in my Limitless and Wildcard videos. So let me just have a look here. I think Di Lorenzo could find a way into this squad as well. So let's put Di Lorenzo in here. And Napoli are top of the clean sheet odds. So yeah, Di Lorenzo's in there. And maybe I'll go for Davinson Sanchez. I'm not entirely convinced about him and most defenders this week. Then I can get rid of Fermin Lopez, Igor Paxao, Yildiz, potentially Saka. And I do like Yilmaz this week, but I think he'd still be sold. Kane, Haaland, and Mbappe would probably remain. It's just a question of Kane or Vlahovic or something else like that. And if Osimhen does somehow start, which would be a big surprise, then I would include him on this Limitless draft. So Foden would come in as well. That's quite clear. Yamal would also be in this team. I'd still go for Salah, who should start against PSV Eindhoven. And I would pick Bellingham and Kvaratskhelia. So I'm quite... that's the wrong Bellingham, by the way. That's Joe Bellingham. Oh, yeah, I've already got too many Madrid players, that's why. So, yeah, Mbappe, Bellingham, Trent. And then in terms of goalkeepers, that's going to be a difficult one. So I think that's going to be a common issue. Courtois was kind of my set and forget for the Wednesday. Now it's a little bit more difficult. So a lot of the higher scoring goalkeepers I would ignore, actually. I think it's probably best to not overcomplicate it and just stick with Lunin and then replace Trent with somebody else. Yeah, double up in Napoli's defense, I just don't really like the look of. It's not really that appealing to me. And I'm not going to recommend a double up in Liverpool either. So yeah, this will be kind of ironed out very soon, but this is very close to my final Limitless team. And in the end, I might just go for the Copenhagen goalkeeper, simply because they're playing Kara Almaty, but not entirely sure about that. I mean, he has 3.9 million as well. That's crazy, but that's going to be something to think about. For the time being, I think I'm going to go for one of Alisson or Milinkovic-Savic. Yeah, so I'm having a few technical difficulties. Let me know if things are still fine, but I think there are some internet problems today. I do regret that. We do have over 1,000 people watching though. Drop a like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, all that good stuff. Let's close in on 38k on YouTube, and also, yeah, just build up all the metrics on YouTube and my social media platforms. But let's go through some questions now. And of course, some of them would have been answered in the section I just covered. Yeah, just seeing if I can somehow improve the internet situation. It's kind of been up and down today. I'm not sure exactly why that is. I'll look into it afterwards. So, yep, Icardi is replacing Osimhen. Let's go through the member questions. Hi, Dylan, Adeyemi and Elise to start. Yeah, I think so. I mean, Elise, there's no doubt that he would start. He got 2 goals and 3 assists over the weekend. He's one of Bayern Munich's best players. He was always going to get that nod. As for Adeyemi, he has been more of a rotation risk this season, but he will start, especially with Bayer out injured for Borussia Dortmund, which is another update I saw today. Yeah, I'm Argentine. I don't have the flag for decoration. Hey Dylan, good to see you, bro. Do you think Calafiori will start? Yes, I do. Let's see if I can get the rest. But yeah, even the chat is a little bit laggy for me when I'm trying to highlight the messages. So yeah, be patient and things will be covered. On Limitless, O'Reilly or Gvardiol? Probably Gvardiol, because Aït-Nouri should get some game time at some stage. He's also going off to the African Cup of Nations very soon. So I think Aït-Nouri could start against one of Bayer Leverkusen or Leeds. So I think Gvardiol might be a little bit safer, but that's just my opinion. Of course, Trent will start. Real Madrid doesn't have any defenders. I don't have any concerns about Trent starting. My problem is, by going for Trent, I can't also go for Bellingham, Mbappe, and Lunin. I have to drop one of them, and I don't want to double up on Madrid defensively. Yeah, I think Son is a decent choice, to be fair. But on the Limitless, I think I'd still favor the 5 you see on screen. Well, you see my current preferences, so I don't really need to speak too much on that, but I think I'd still lean towards Kane. Chevalier or Alisson? Probably Alisson. Is Dan Burn a good option? Yeah, I think he's decent, but I think Marseille will score. He's more of a long-term pick. The best Dortmund defender for Matchday 5, and actually, I think I'd go for a Dortmund defender. Yeah, I think Emre Can for this Matchday. He's also on penalties when he's on the pitch, so yeah, I think I'd replace Sanchez with Emre Can, and then maybe go for the Galatasaray goalkeeper, but that's not... Actually, I wouldn't do that because he plays on the same day as Donnarumma. So yeah, this is kind of my rough Limitless squad, but double Liverpool defense looks crazy. Yeah, that could easily backfire. I mean, something I'm open to is selling Bellingham to a different midfielder. That could be one of Saka, Sane, and then I could replace Alisson with Lunin and then double up on Madrid defensively over Liverpool. But that's something I'm going to weigh up over the next hour or so. But I also want to wait for the 11, the starting 11s from the early kickoffs. And Galatasaray is the one of main interest. As a Leverkusen fan, I have to say you'd be mad if you don't captain Haaland and at least have one more City player this week. We have no players left to play. Yeah, the thing is, Leverkusen have 7 wins out of the last 10, but they were battered by PSG a couple of weeks ago. Man City aren't on that level, but they can still batter teams on their day. And yeah, I think Erling Haaland is the best captaincy option. I think Foden and then one more is probably ideal. Well, I mean, Foden's been quite consistent in terms of starts in the Premier League and Champions League. You can never guarantee anything with Pep, but I would go for him on the Limitless. Copenhagen goalkeeper, maybe, but I could see Kara Almaty scoring. Well, Vinicius Jr. didn't start over the weekend. Bellingham got a goal and assist, and he's been the more informed midfielder. So, yeah, my answer is Bellingham. And Vinicius also has some problems with Xabi Alonso, according to multiple reports. I'll probably go for the Limitless today, yeah. And for a lot of people, it makes sense. Well, I literally just explained that, mate. It's not that simple. If I go for Lunin, I also have to get rid of one of Mbappe, Bellingham, or Trent, which isn't the end of the world. I'd be quite open to selling Trent, but yeah, that's the reason why I haven't gone for Lunin directly. Will Højlund start? I think so. Hola Dylan, ¿qué piensas de poner a Timber o a Buongiorno en defensa? Para la jornada 5 prefiero a Buongiorno o cualquier defensa de Napoli, pero a largo plazo creo que Timber y los defensores de Arsenal son mejores que muchos otros en este juego. Trent o Pacho? I think for Matchday 5 only, it'd be Trent. Long term, Pacho's the one. Best replacements for Osimhen and Gabriel. Vlahovic, I like for price tag, and for Gabriel, Nuno Mendes. Best Juventus defender for Limitless. I'm not really a big fan of those options, but Kalulu springs to mind. Who takes the penalties for Napoli? Well, normally it's De Bruyne. In his absence, I don't think it's even Højlund, actually. I need to double check this, but I think Politano is their main penalty taker, but it all depends on whether he starts or not. Yeah, Chevalier or Alisson, together with Donnarumma, I prefer Alisson. Yeah, probably. I've said this very consistently in this stream and also in my videos. Best replacements for Osimhen and Gabriel. Yeah, covered. Foden versus Elise. For Matchday 5 is Foden. Long-term Elise all day long. Yeah, Galatasaray is definitely an option as the second goalkeeper. ¿Por qué piensas que Bellingham hará más puntos que Vinicius? Y porque en el fin de semana hizo gol y asistencia. Vinicius ni siquiera empezó el partido. Y si vos ves cómo están jugando ambos jugadores, Bellingham está jugando mucho mejor que Vinicius Jr., pero si vos crees que va a ser Vinicius Jr., puedes ir por él. When playing Limitless, would you go for Calhanoglu or Arda Güler? Probably Arda Güler. Madrid does not have centre-backs, by the way, only Asensio. Well, that's why I'm saying I don't want to double up on their defence, but I still would like to have one, either Lunin or Trent. And it's also a question of the alternatives not being great this week. If Gabriel was available, Dumfries, even Ben Sebaini, then things would be a little bit different, but we've got to adapt to the situation. I tried to not throw Doku in. I'm rolling over my wildcard. Yeah, I think Doku's another shout. He's in great form, by the way. I'm more keen on him in FPL. compared to UCL Fantasy, but even then I've got some reservations about Doku because of his lack of goal scoring. Well, there is a wildcard draft already on my channel, mate, so I'm not going to probably go through that again. The main focus will be on the Limitless, which I'm going to play today. If I can in a little while, then I will show you a wildcard squad, but I can't guarantee it because either way, it's all been done yesterday. Should I make 2 transfers for Game Week 6? I've always asked this question. It's not going to work. The 2 transfers you make will be part of your Limitless squad, then your team reverts back to how it was beforehand, and you'll only have 2 free transfers. Alvarez instead of Kane. Not for me, but if you back Atletico Madrid to score goals against Inter, then you can go for it. Yeah, McTominay's another good shout in the midfield. I'm quite keen on investing in him, but it's quite difficult to pick him over one of these players. Probably over one of Bellingham, Salah, or Foden. And the only reason why I'd sell Foden is because I would have reservations about him starting, but I think he will against Leverkusen. Yeah. Okay. Any fear that Real is currently playing against their coach? But they're still top of the Champions League. They're still top of the La Liga table. They're in a decent position in the Champions League, albeit not ideal. They are winless in 3 matches, but yeah, this has been an ongoing issue, and they're still getting good results for the most part. If Osimhen is out, yes. Icardi will probably take penalties. I think so. He'll definitely start, that's for sure. Ben Sebaini is in training, but I don't think he'll start, as covered a few times. Will AFCON also affect UCL matches, especially AFCON players? Well, yes, because players like Ben Sebaini and, you know, all these African players, they won't feature in Matchday 6, for example. So, definitely. It's close to my Limitless team. For those that are looking to use the Limitless as well, watch my Limitless video, but also have your own ideas, because maybe you fancy McTominay or you want to have a different striker to Kane. Don't just copy it word for word or player for player, but I'm still ironing out a few details, mainly with the goalkeeper and defensive line. Yeah, Cambiasso to cover Juventus defensively. Not horrible. Not horrible there. What about Gordon? I just think Marseille versus Newcastle is a difficult game to call, and Gordon is just coming off the back of an injury, so he might not even start the game, so not for me. Which C defenders to pick? I'd say Gvardiol, if not Donnarumma in goal. Haaland or Yamal captain? You saw my Campsy list earlier. I'll probably go for it another time before the deadline, but Haaland is number 1 out of all players. I think Emre Can will be on penalties in Ben Sebaini's absence, and when Emre Can starts, he typically is the main penalty taker. But yeah, apologies. The live chat and stuff is, yeah, I'm not sure what's going on today. It's a bit of a piss take, but I'm trying my best to deal with it. I have Milinkovic-Savic in my goalkeeper Limitless. I think that's fine. I think Karabag could score, to be honest, but Napoli are top of the clean sheet odds. Midfield, Yamal, Yildiz, McTominay, Vitinha. Creo que Yildiz no va a empezar el partido, como dije antes en inglés, así que Yildiz es alguien para vender. Con 7 millones... Puedes comprar Igor Paxao. Fermín López me gusta, pero no necesariamente para el partido contra Chelsea, pero creo que a largo plazo Fermín López es el mejor. What do you think about Greenwood, Marino and Adeyemi? I wouldn't go for Marino, personally, against Bayern Munich. Adeyemi's a shout against Villarreal. He should start. And Greenwood has been in amazing form, so I'm more keen on the other 2, but not so much on Marino. But yeah, I'm not sure what you're saying there. Limitless activators, are you saying that these 3 players are cheaper and then you can go with expensive players elsewhere? But yeah, I'm not too keen on Marino this week. I hope I'm wrong, but I'm not really feeling it. Aubameyang for Osimhen. Not a bad shout, just like Greenwood. Aubameyang is in great form. Still believe in Liverpool players. I think some of them still offer good value, like Van Dijk in general. I mean, he's got 2 Player of the Match awards in UCL Fantasy. They've got 3 wins out of 4 in the Champions League. They're 8th in the table, so they have been in poor form overall, but they're not a lost cause in the Champions League. Yes, Svensson's also decent to cover Dortmund defensively, but I think Emre Can will start, and he should be on penalties as well. But you've also got Garassi, who used to be on penalties for Dortmund as well. Between Salah and Trincao, well, I've got Salah currently on screen, so that's the answer. Will I get 4 transfers next game week? No, you won't. You're only going to get 2. And the transfers you make before activating the Limitless will be part of your Limitless squad. They will not be part of your normal squad in general. Hola, Dylan, ¿qué 2 jugadores seleccionarías entre Jude Bellingham, Szoboszlai, Neres, McTominay, Lamine, Saka? Bellingham y Lamine Yamal. Me gusta mucho a McTominay en esta jornada también. Yeah, I wouldn't be that shocked either. PSV are in great form. They're unbeaten in 11 matches with 8 wins in that time frame. Well, I've got Salah in my Limitless squad. He has to perform at some point, but he has been awful this season. There's no denying it. So he's one of the kind of main players to drop out for McTominay potentially because of that. Yamal or Bellingham? Probably Bellingham this week. Long term, it's a different story. I'm not a massive fan of Højlund, but against Karabag, he has a decent chance of scoring. Ben Sebaini is in training. I don't think he'll start. I showed you different lineups earlier. You got to make your own decision there. If you back him to start, then keep him and see what happens, but I don't think that'll be the case. McTominay or change up for Lamine? Limitless. I prefer Yamal. Is Emre Can on penalties? I think so. Why Limitless this week and not later on? It's been covered to death, mate. I'm not going to lie to you. Not just in my wildcard, Limitless, and team selection videos, but also today and in my chip strategy guide. Essentially, a lot of people wildcarded in 2, like myself, will have a lot of fives to put out this week. So not just Dumfries and Gabriel who are out. You know, that would be quite simple to deal with. But Ben Sebaini and Yildiz probably won't start. Even Gusto isn't a guaranteed starter. And I could also reinvigorate my midfield and defensive line, even my 2 goalkeepers with the Limitless chip. So yeah, some questions I've answered just now, I'm not going to go through again. So just bear that in mind. I'm going to try to go for as many different questions as possible and cover different people. So we'll keep things moving that way. I'm just going to have something in place for the time being and get rid of... You know what? I'm going to keep Alexander-Arnold there. And then I'm going to go for... I think I'm just going to go for a Wednesday goalkeeper. Even from Monaco, I mean, Carrere was someone I mentioned as a choice there in that defensive line. You could cover Monaco defensively with a goalkeeper, maybe with Copenhagen as well, but the options are quite poor. Yeah, I think I'll keep it simple and just go for Lunin then. That was my plan with Courtois. Lunin has typically done well in his absence over the years, but that means no Trent or Bellingham. And then I could go for Davinson Sanchez. So I could go for something like this on my Limitless. It's not locked in. McTominay could still find a way into this midfield. If Osimhen starts, which I don't think will be the case, then I would go for him over Harry Kane. But yeah, still a few things to iron out. And someone did ask me about the wild card. There was a video up already on the channel. I'd highly recommend checking that out first, but this would be my sort of wild card setup. So for Matchday 5, yeah, I think Karasechi would remain with Milinkovic-Savic. If you're wildcarding in 6 though, then I would go for Raya over Milinkovic-Savic because then in 6 and 7 he will play on different days to Karasechi. That is not the case in Matchday 5. Now, if you are looking a bit longer term at the bigger picture, then one of Timber or Hincapié could be a good option in this defensive line, but I don't like them, of course, against Bayern Munich. Let's put Davinson Sanchez in here. No Ben Sebaini. I think Dan Burn could be kept, to be fair. Nuno Mendes, Davinson Sanchez as a short-term pick, and I think Virgil van Dijk would still make it. Fermin Lopez is still quite appealing to me. Igor Paxal, Anthony Gordon, they're all good, but I'd have some concerns about Gordon's minutes this week. I'd sell Yildiz. Yilmaz, I don't mind so much. So if you need that sort of budget midfielder, I don't mind him on the wildcard this week. That could be one of my regrets by playing the Limitless in Matchday 5 for me. So let me go for McTominay here. He would definitely make my wildcard squad. I think Kvaratskhelia. I would go for Nemecha. And then it leaves a spot for one more. I had Yildiz originally, and that's something I would change. So 7.5 in the bank. You could go for Gordon, Igor Paxal. Even Szoboszlai isn't too shabby. But I'm probably going to go for something a little bit different here on the wild card. So even Sane isn't too shabby. Or Yilmaz, as I just mentioned, but yeah. There is even a way to find or have enough money for Elise or Foden whilst keeping Kane, Haaland and Mbappe. So 0.4 in the bank. Yeah, I think this is doable. Then just downgrade one of these players. So let's have that ready. Yeah, Gavardio defensively I don't mind so much. A double City, of course, they do face Real Madrid in Matchday 6. So I think just to have something set here, I'd potentially go for one of Sane, Paxal, or Gordon. That's where my kind of mind's drifting to with this squad. Francisco Trincao is decent as well. Adeyemi as a short-term punt, but Yildiz, I don't think he's going to start. So, yeah, I'm just completely put off by him now. Let's go for Paxal. 1.2 in the bank. You could also use that to upgrade somebody else. And then maybe, let's say, Davinson Sanchez to Gavardio. But, of course, they do face Madrid in Matchday 6. So just bear that in mind. Yeah, this is a very awkward week to wildcard, in my opinion. That's the way I look at it. Bacho's good, but I wouldn't double up on PSG defensively, necessarily. So, yeah. By the way, another decent option who could be quite underrated is Lucasen, who has 36 points so far. He's always right up there for ball recoveries. And against Monaco, I think Paphos could get a result, actually. So, yeah, he's not too shabby, but yeah, with all these injuries, Gabriel Dumfries, even Ben Sabani, who would have been in this wildcard squad, it isn't too easy. I'd probably go for a Dortmund defender, and long-term, I think Schlotterbeck or Ryerson would be the one. So then 0.8 in the bank, and you can modify things to your heart's content, essentially. This is a rough sort of wildcard squad with that change of Yildiz. And then this is my normal squad without making any single transfer. If I were to just make 2 moves, then it would be this. And I showed you this in my team selection graphics earlier, the updated version. So Di Lorenzo and Nuno Mendes. But I would still have Yildiz and Ben Sabani, who probably won't start. Even Gusto doesn't look great. And a few clashes in my squad. So I think Limitless is where I'm going this week. And this is the closest to my final Limitless team. But I could still make a few changes. Let me now go to my normal squad, the starting 11 and the setup, and very soon I'll cover the early lineups. So let's go through the member questions first. Salah and Kane or Elise and another striker? Probably Salah and Kane. I do like Elise though. Sí, creo que sí. Trippier is out. That was confirmed by Eddie Howe. Also mentioned in today's video with the graphics on screen. Why not just take Gavardio and Galatasaray goalkeeper? Is that for the wildcard or Limitless? I mean, it's quite similar, right, to Donnarumma and Davinson Sanchez. I mean, that's an option, to be fair. City are playing today, yes, at 8 PM in the UK. Yeah, Trippier's out. He is out. Eddie Howe confirmed it in his press conference, and Gordon travelled with the squad. Bellingham or Foden? I prefer Foden, but there is a bigger rotation risk there. Chevalier is decent, but I've already got Nuno Mendes, and I think Spurs could still score, but maybe I'll go for something like that. Yeah, let me just deal with this spamming, and by the way, yeah, thank you, Keith, you beat me to it, I think. Yeah, anything like that is just never going to be answered, so you just wasted your own time there. Thank you to Marikichi for becoming a differential. And by the way, just before I went live, I actually posted a transfer tips video for FPL, and that's available for members and patrons for free. For earlier than everyone else. So basically, you get early access, and that'll be posted for everybody else later in the week, but you get it right now, and that's one of the main perks of signing up. So a big up to you and to everyone else who has supported the channel. If you've got a message there, Marikichi, then let me know, because in streams like this, you will be prioritized for sure. So thank you very much. Got a Yamal Lopez double up. I think that's fine. In a week like this against Chelsea, it doesn't look pretty, but I think that could be a high-scoring game. Harvey Barnes could be a short-term punt, but I actually talked about him in my FPL video, and I'll echo the same sentiments here. Anthony Gordon is still the first choice left winger. He's been brilliant in the Champions League with 4 goals. I wouldn't go for Harvey Barnes, and I think Marseille won't be an easy game. Well, no City defender because I've got Foden, Haaland, and Donnarumma. You can't go for 4 players on a Limitless. Do you recommend using Limitless this week or are there other weeks? Matchday 7 looks very enticing, but it's also about your squad. And in my situation, the best time to use the Limitless is Matchday 5, it seems. Vlahovic or Kane this week. It's close. Normally it isn't. I think I'd still go for Kane. Vlahovic on Limitless, decent option. And if I go back to the predicted 11... Oh, yeah. So, yeah, that's something that I need to echo and reaffirm again. So, it's not just Yildiz who could be benched. It's also Vlahovic. Yeah, I just go for Harry Kane. Just keep it simple, to be quite honest with you. And these are the other graphics I showed you earlier. And later on, I'll probably do a quick recap of top 10 captains, clean sheet odds, etc. And the same goes for the injury updates and team news. But yeah, we're going to find out Galatasaray's lineup very soon. No need to really talk about this too much. Icardi should start over Victor Osimhen. Courtois is out with an injury. Actually, it's illness. Yeah, he's out with an illness. So for Matchday 5, Lunin will start, but it's not a long-term thing. And this was a comment by Spalletti about Yildiz. He can't always be at the maximum. It's natural to have dips. Rest is part of the game. Sometimes you must sit out and encourage your teammates. So yeah, I don't think Yildiz will start. And it looks like Vlahovic won't either, according to Sky Sports Italia. And this is a predicted 11 by This Is Anfield. So they've got Salah in there with Gakpo, Szoboszlai, Ekitike, McAllister, Gravenberch. And the backline is Robertson, Van Dijk, Konate, and Gomez with Alisson in goal. I also went through all the predicted lineups earlier. And yeah, that will be talked about later on as well. So I'll focus on comments for the time being, and when the lineups are out, that will be addressed very soon, alongside all the other graphics, team news, injury updates that you need, so you have all the information for Matchday 5. Drop a like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, all that good stuff. Our aim is to get this to over 300 likes overall, and to close in on 38k on YouTube. We've currently got over 900 people watching, and sometimes that goes up to 1k and above in these UCL Fantasy streams. So big up to everyone who is supporting the channel. What do you think of Nico Williams in Limitless? I'm not a big fan of Athletic Bilbao assets, to be fair. Thank you very much, Confused. CIU. Nemecha isn't appearing in possible lineups. Yeah, that is a good point. I do like him as a budget midfielder, but I'm just going to double check this 11 I saw from Bully News, because I did show it earlier. But let's see if I can get this up here. Yeah. So the one from Bully News that I mentioned earlier, they had Kobel, Schlotterbeck, Chan, Anton, Svensson and Ryerson as the wingbacks, Gross, Sabitzer, and up front Brandt, Adeyemi and Garassi. So yeah, Nemecha is a bit of a problem, to be fair. And that's why, if I go back actually to the transfers and the wildcard squad, to kind of remove that issue. So Nemecha out, and let's see, 6.6 in the bank. Yeah, it's not an easy one. I did like Nemecha going into this match day, but these predicted 11s have been a bit of a madness, actually, in recent weeks. So yeah, I think I'd be tempted by Adeyemi, but it does require a downgrade elsewhere. But we are getting quite close now to the sort of team I'd like to build. Instead of Paxal, I'm going to go for Yilmaz. So there you go. This is roughly what I'd go for on the wildcard, sorry. And you can also consider Igor Paxal, Anthony Gordon instead of Adeyemi. And you could also actually go for Foden if you want that sort of 1 week punt and you're happy to maybe book in a transfer for match day 6. Now, he isn't the most secure player in the world, but I think Foden and Haaland could be a nice double up for match day 5. So this is kind of what I'd wildcard to, but it's a very awkward week when it comes to this chip. So this will be the Limitless squad, which will be of big interest today People have been saying, why not just go for the Galatasaray goalkeeper and then go for Gvardiol? That is also an option, but I'd have fewer concerns about Donnarumma starting or not compared to any City defender this week. So, yeah, we'll wait and see. But I would not be surprised if City did a madness and rotated quite heavily, even though they've got Leeds at the weekend. I would argue Leverkusen is the tougher opponent. So a big up here to Ahmed, I believe. You did say yesterday you'd give memberships. I already told you you've done a lot for the channel, but a big up to you and to the likes of Rob, King Shaz, Luca Cruz, and I Show AXD. And then Mr. Eternal 38. Enjoy the membership for an entire month. You'll gain early access to my videos, prior to comments, amongst many other perks. So big up to Ahmed and to every single one of you. Why not Guirassy over Kane on Limitless? Because Guirassy's not in great form. I just think the forwards this week look quite poor in comparison to what they would have looked like at the beginning of the season. Gvardiol not predicted to start by City Extra. Well, yeah, look, with that 11 you're mentioning, I haven't seen it. And that's just one prediction. It doesn't mean it's gospel. Gvardiol could still start, but I did see a tweet by, I think, FPL Main Road, and he suggested that City have done a bit of a madness with the lineup. So we'll wait and see what happens tonight, but I just hope if I end up picking Donnarumma, he's not the one benched. Matheus Nunes should be fine at right back. He's been very consistent in that starting 11, but Man City will rotate. They've got a lot of games coming up and a nice fixture run in the Premier League where they will still have hope of catching Arsenal. What do you think about Lewandowski on the Limitless? To be fair, that's a good shout. I think that could be a high-scoring game, but I've also got Yamal to cover Barca offensively. I think one is probably enough, but if you are deciding to go a bit different in the midfield and you have no Yamal, no Fermin Lopez, then Lewandowski up front could be decent, but I still think Kane is the better pick. Sub for Yildiz, well, I just covered that in my wildcard section, to be honest, but Igor Paxal, Gordon, who, to be fair, I wouldn't really recommend too much this week. I just think longer term he's a good pick. Yeah, I think it does become quite difficult. Foden, Adeyemi as a one-week punt. There aren't too many standouts at this sort of price tag, but a lot of them are quite close together. Yeah, Gordon is available. He's with the squad. Osimhen should be in the squad as well, but he's not expected to start, and we're going to find out in literally 10-20 minutes. It shows me only one transfer for this match day. Well, if you haven't made any transfers whatsoever, you should have two. Yeah, you should have two. Yeah, so I've seen a lot of these kind of questions now, and this kind of was sparked by the discussions I made of playing a Limitless or wildcard, and then afterwards it said I had 3 transfers, and in the end I only had 2, and they took -4 away from me. So yeah, be very mindful about the app and the website, but when it says free, ignore it, because in that case you will not have free transfers. But yeah, in UCL Fantasy you get 2 free transfers per match day in the league phase, and you can only roll to free if you make no moves in a given match day. That's the only way. And going into future rounds of the competition, you will not be able to roll. This is only between match days 1 to 8, essentially, or technically match days 2 to 8. So maybe just to be on the safe side, use one transfer, don't use both of them. But that could be another example of a visual glitch that I talked about. Warning on Icardi, he might get subbed off quite early for Osimhen. Yeah, that's possible. I wouldn't be too surprised. Even if Osimhen does start, it would be the kind of other way around. Yeah, Alisson in goal is decent, but I've also got Van Dijk in that defensive line. PSV are unbeaten in 11 matches with 8 wins in that time frame, and Liverpool have 8 losses out of the last 11. So very different sets of form. I'm not that keen on doubling up on Liverpool defensively, to be honest. I'd rather diversify my defensive line this week. So right now we are on 200 likes. Thank you to those that have done so. Let's now get to 300 plus and see where we can push from there. And yeah, a big up to the community and all the support you've shown for the last couple of years. Let's see what Ahmed is saying, and also the other members. I promise so I came to deliver. Yeah, but of course you've done a lot for the channel, so you've already done your part, mate, and it's very much appreciated. Love this family so much. You're all welcome. Thank you, Ahmed. And also, if you have any questions, comments, then let me know. You don't even need to send any super chats or anything. Just send it as a normal message. Vitinha is decent, to be fair. I do prefer Kvaratskhelia overall, though, and he's 8.1 million. Well, Eze scored a hat-trick in the North London derby on Sunday, but against Bayern Munich, I wouldn't be buying him in. There's also Inter Milan in Matchday 7. Those are quite difficult fixtures for Arsenal. So Eze's a good player. If you have him, I wouldn't be selling him necessarily, but I also wouldn't be buying him in. Thank you, Ellis. Hey, Dylan, you're my favorite YouTuber. I've started to make FPL content. Any tips? Well, that's great to hear, and I'm very flattered. Thank you very much. I think the most important thing is just to get content out there, enjoy the process, and you will make mistakes, or you'll, start off with maybe, just get on the camera or maybe in this case you're doing a voiceover and just do it, and don't think too much about, oh, this isn't perfect, or, I need to improve this. You can learn that over time, and then you'll figure out what's good about your videos, what needs to be improved, but it's all a process, and yeah, just keep going at it and enjoy what you're doing. That's the most important thing. Otherwise, it's not sustainable, and you won't be able to do it for many, many years. So I think enjoyment is the main thing. Is Elise a keep for this week? I still think he's a keep in general. The same goes for Harry Kane, because Bayern Munich have great fixtures from matchday 6 to 8. Foden or Fermin Lopez? For matchday 5, it's Foden. Long term on the wild card, I'd recommend Fermin Lopez instead. So it all depends on the context. But for matchday 5 specifically, I would pick the City players instead. Yeah, I'll be honest, Ahmed, I don't really have too much of an opinion of Teze. I've always been looking at Akliuchi, who was on penalties, of course. He missed the crucial one towards the beginning of the season. And Carrere does pique my interest as a defender against Paphos away. But yeah, that's something that, I'll be honest, I haven't seen much of that player. So maybe he's someone you should be looking at and considering. But yeah, I haven't really given him too much thought overall. So just having a look at how he's done so far. 4.2 million defender. I mean, looks pretty promising, to be fair. And let me just quickly check if he's in the predicted 11 for Monaco. Yeah, he is. He is a guaranteed starter, it seems. So that could be a nice way of saving money on Carrere, on the wild card, or using free transfers. So yeah, any Monaco defender looks okay this week. But I'd also say Lucasen from the other side looks quite appealing as well. From what I've seen, Rashford won't start. Vlahovic or Kane, in the Sky Sports Italia lineup that I saw, there was no Yildiz and no Vlahovic, so I would just go for Kane. Yeah, Kane might blank today because Bayern Munich play tomorrow. That's probably what you mean. A big up here to a new member. So to Serhat, thank you for becoming a captain. So once again, you know the drill. All the perks are listed in the description. And if you have any questions or comments, let me know and they'll be answered very soon. Szoboszlai or Kvaratskhelia? Kvaratskhelia for me. I think Szoboszlai has been brilliant this season, but it would be Kvaratskhelia. Also, big up to 96 to Johnny. Yeah, I really think Kane will blank today. Well, yeah, unfortunately for you, he plays tomorrow against Arsenal. Not to be a dick, but yeah, sometimes I'm just like that. What can I say? Hey, Dylan, Courtois out? Yes, he's out. I mentioned that a few times. I showed the graphic as well from Real Madrid's website. He is not going to play because of illness. It's not a long-term thing, so Lunin will play in matchday 5. Also, what about Juventus assets for the Limitless? Well, the two main ones in Yildiz and Vlahovic might not even start, according to Sky Sports Italia, who have been so reliable with their predicted 11s for Inter Milan. I haven't seen them for Juventus or other teams, though. Mano says, so happy for Ebrice Eze. Yeah, I mean, I'm just happy as an Arsenal fan. It doesn't matter who scored a hat-trick or who got the win, but the fact it was Eze makes it even sweeter in a way because of what happened over the summer. Thank you, Alex Suarez. New to the channel. Good stuff. I appreciate it. Yildiz has been the biggest fraud in the UCL. He's up there. I agree with you. Best Juve defender. I mean, you've got Kalulu. You've got Cambiasso. I'm not a massive fan of these players, but yeah, maybe Cambiasso. He was someone I had in Club World Cup fantasy over the summer. Why no Limitless punts? Why go Yamal and Foden? Well, maybe because I feel they score more points. I mean, it's not just about going differential for the sake of it. And by the way, I've got Davinson Sanchez, who has very low ownership. Even Bellingham, I mean, he's got 5% ownership. I think that's a differential. So it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but I think Yamal, for example, can score or assist against anybody. Just look at his record this season for club and country. It's very rare that he doesn't get a goal contribution. With Foden, the biggest concern would be minutes, but when he has started in the Champions League, he's done very well over the past couple of years. I do like McTominay. He's the most likely to break into my midfield, but it probably would be at the expense of Salah instead. Barcola, I've already got Kvaratskhelia, and Barcola I had, by the way, in UCL Fantasy. He was absolute crap. He missed a penalty for me in Matchday 1. He got an assist, but it really could have been a 12-14 pointer on that day. And Trincao, I also mentioned him as an option. So if you want to go for these players, go for it. If anything, you should be happy that I'm not recommending these players or having them on screen more, because some people just copy everything I do. So yeah, just enjoy it and enjoy the points. Who would you drop McTominay in for your current midfield lineup? Probably Salah, if I had to pick one. And that's just because of Liverpool's form. Salah's ranked quite highly in my captaincy list in 4th spot, but maybe I'm overrating him a little bit because this season he has been pretty poor. Hi Dylan, what do you think about Trincao? He's a good option, which I mentioned earlier, but Club Brugge are not a pushover. Yes, they conceded 3 times to Barcelona in Matchday 4, but they got a free draw in the end. And yeah, I think Club Brugge are also, you know, a bit under the radar sometimes. I think Sporting will win, but it could be a very difficult game. McTominay is one of my favourite midfielders, hence why he makes my wildcard squad, and I'll probably buy him in for Matchday 6, actually. One of my regrets could be not having him in my Limitless squad. I'm not saying he's definitely not going to be in it, but yeah, there are still a few things to iron out. And actually, what I want to do, before I show you the Galatasaray lineup, which will be very important, is to see Man City's predicted 11. But according to UEFA, and I think Galatasaray have posted it, by the way, so I will have a look very soon. So Man City's predicted 11. Foden is in it. They've also got Gvardiol in there, but I think there could be a few changes in that City team. Okay, so let's now get the lineups out for the early kickoffs. To be fair, before I do, there are a few new members, I think, and super chats. So let me go through that. So once again, a big up to Serhat. I appreciate it. And also to 96 to Johnny. Limitless with 3 injuries makes sense. I think so. I've only got 2 injuries, but I've also got 2 players who might not even start in Yildiz and Bensabani. So it's all team dependent. But I think the Limitless makes a lot of sense in Matchday 5 because it also allows you to keep players like Kane or Barcelona assets, Arsenal, Atletico Madrid, etc., who have good fixtures from Matchday 6 to 8 overall. So yeah, I think in a lot of cases it does make sense. Højlund's a good choice on the Limitless. Nothing spectacular though, and he's just coming off the back of an injury. So apparently Osimhen is starting, but I don't think he's going to get many minutes, or he's not going to get 90. But let's talk about it now. So let's go to this starting 11. Yeah, that was a troll by this guy. What are you doing? So yeah, Cardi does start up front. It's pretty much what we talked about with all these different predictions, UEFA, also some Turkish journalists. So yeah, Yilmaz starts on the left wing. He could be quite decent at 5 million. Leroy Sané on the right. Davinson Sanchez also gets the nod. I might even go for the goalkeeper in the end and then go for Gvardiol defensively, but it does seem like a bit of a risk right now. And we can also see Union Saint-Gilloise's team as well. But yeah, for Galatasaray, it's Kahir, Shalai, Sanchez, Bardakci, Jacobs, Torreira, Sara, Sane, Gundogan, Yilmaz, and Icardi. And let's take a look at Ajax versus Benfica. They should also load any second now. So yeah, Ajax have gone for Jaros, Regier, Sotalo, Bas, Veindel. I used to pronounce this actually for Euro Fantasy. Not even the one that just went by, but 2020, which was played in 2021. But that was a long time ago. Klaassen, Itakura, Taylor, Benida, Weghorst, and Götze. And for Benfica, Trubin, Dal, Otamendi, Antonio Silva, Dedic, Arsunis, Baranechea, Rios, Sudakov, Barrero, and Pavlidis. So all those lineups are covered. As Osimhen doesn't start, as I talked about. Is he on the bench? No, he's not. Yeah, Osimhen isn't even on the bench. So, yeah. A few of these journalists were saying he would be in the extended squad. But yeah, he's not in this. He's not on the bench here. So, there you go. Maybe that's what he was referring to, not as a starter. Or even as a player who could come on. So, there you go. All covered. And we've got that confirmation of Osimhen. He will not play in Matchday 5. So that makes it a little bit simpler now. And let's go through some more member questions, super chatters, patrons, all that good stuff. Thank you, Serhat. I appreciate it. And yeah, a big up to you and the rest of the community. Arda or Bellingham? Bellingham. Very hard to nail third striker, if not Kane. I agree. And Kane has a great record against Arsenal. 15 goals against them. So, yeah, I'm quite keen on going for Kane. It would have been perfect if he played today, so even if he blanked, I could just sub him out. But, yeah, the game obviously takes place tomorrow, and we'll see what happens. Serhat puts his team: Gabriel, Byrne, DeMarco, O'Reilly, Gusto, Gordon, Saka, Elise, Fermin Lopez, Marino, Haaland, Osimhen, Alvarez, my squad. No chips, but overall rank 34. That's a great rank. What should I do? Well, Osimhen is the priority now, since he's missing out. You've also got Gabriel, who is injured. Those two should be sold. So, this is the thing, right? We are struggling for that third forward at this moment in time. Alvarez is worth keeping. Haaland is obviously one of the top captaincy options, but I think with Gabriel, ideally I'd replace him with Nuno Mendes. In order to get Mbappe for Osimhen, you would need to sell somebody else and take a -4. But I'm just thinking what you could do. Maybe Saka, which does seem a bit risky. And I don't know what money you've got in the bank, but if you could do something like Osimhen to Mbappe, Saka to, let's say, a 6 million midfielder, and then get Nuno Mendes for Gabriel, I'd go for that. Do you think Rico Lewis has a chance to start? Yes, in the Champions League, that is the case. Why not Otamendi over Sanchez? Because Benfica are 35th in the table, Galatasaray are 9th, they're much more solid. In terms of the quality of fixture, you could definitely argue that Union Saint-Gilloise isn't easier than Ajax, who are currently really poor at the moment. But I made that mistake with Otamendi in Matchday 1. He was woeful. The same goes for Benfica. They let a 2-0 lead slip against Karabag. I don't think I'm going there again with Galatasaray. No Osimhen, boring. Yeah, because that would have given us a decision to make. Even on the Limitless, you could punt him and have that sort of option, but he's been nursing an injury, and it's probably the right decision. Icardi, probably 90 minutes now. Yeah, he could be one to consider for sure on the Limitless. I'm more keen on him than Vlahovic now, based on that Sky Sports Italia predicted 11, and also Højlund, I think. Icardi could be a little bit better. So, Andres, big up to you. ¿Cómo ves mi equipo, Dylan? Donnarumma, Lunin, Nuno Mendes, Van Dijk, Sánchez, Timber, Dan Burn, Reinders, Kvaratskhelia, Vitinha, Adeyemi, Estevao. Me gusta mucho y tu defensa es muy parecido a los que va a tener los que tienen el sin límites, pero si Reinders, por ejemplo, no sé si va a jugar. En la Champions League está empezando todos los partidos, pero no es una garantía. Estevao contra Barcelona es un muy buen jugador, pero prefiero otros jugadores a largo plazo. Yo dije esto en la jornada 4. Me gusta Merino y Estevao para ese partido, pero después, cuando Arsenal tiene a Bayern Múnich y en tu caso Estevao tiene a Barcelona, no estoy tan convencido, pero a la misma vez Barcelona está bastante flojo defensivamente, pero Joan García le va a ayudar bastante como su portero. Así que me gustan los jugadores que tienes, pero tengo algunas dudas de Reinders y no sé quién tienes en tu delantera. Probablemente Mbappe, Haaland y Harry Kane, algo así. Pero con estos jugadores creo que valen la pena mantener. Lunin es un arquero para la jornada 5, pero a largo plazo Courtois va a ser el número 1 para el Real Madrid. Thoughts on Gvardiol or prefer any other City defender? Well, there is an element of rotation risk here with City. I would not be surprised if they made a lot of changes. I think O'Reilly's a sensible choice. Maybe one of Lewis or Nunes. They could even both play together. We've seen that happen in the Champions League before, but it's very difficult to pinpoint the best City defender. I think it's Gvardiol in general, but I think a rest against either Leverkusen or Leeds is on the cards. I played my wildcard back in Matchday 2, and I've gotten 3 green arrows ever since, and also 2 back-to-back weeks where I got over 100 points. So it has done its job, but now I've got a few issues, and that's where the Limitless could help me. Nahal says Chakir, Alisson, Van Dijk, Nuno, Chan, DeMarco, Di Lorenzo, Yamal, Salah, Elise, McTominay, Kane, Icardi, Haaland, Mbappe for a Limitless. Yeah, looks good. No Kane. I think Icardi could be a good replacement for him. I like what you've gone for, and I'm also considering McTominay. I think Elise, as good as he is, the only Bayern Munich attacker that I'd really want this week is Kane because of his, history against Arsenal. He even grew up as an Arsenal fan and all that. He has a lot of motivation to score against them, and he's also arguably the best striker in Europe. So I would sell Elise, I think, if I had to pick one sort of like nitpick. I'd consider going for Foden. And to be honest, this might be an unpopular opinion, but I would prefer Saka in that matchup compared to Elise. Yeah, I'm open-minded to it. Icardi in for Harry Kane. But I don't know, maybe it's just a bit of bias kicking in and, trying to cover all bases. So if Bayern Munich win or if Harry Kane has a masterclass, I can at least gain something from it. But I'm just not entirely sold on Icardi. I'm going to have a look at his recent record because I've mainly been focusing on Osimhen. So he scored in his last match a 3-2 win there for Galatasaray, but he hasn't had a great season from the looks of it. I mean, look, out of the last 10 matches he's got, is that 2 goals? Yeah, I'm not seeing many braces or hat-tricks. It's only 1 goal, and by the way, I'd take a goal all day long from all of my strikers, except Kane, for obvious reasons, but yeah, he's had a decent season, but nothing spectacular. I think Osimhen was always the one you wanted from Galatasaray. Yeah, not for me. At the moment, I'd say no. I'm not ruling it out. I am open-minded, but based on what I've just seen now, I think Harry Kane. Thanks for the comments. Gabriel to Nuno, Osimhen to Mbappe, and Dumfries to Svensson. Yeah, looks pretty solid, actually. And in terms of other similarly priced defenders, I mean, Hincapié could be good long-term for you, even though Arsenal play Bayern Munich this week. You've also got Lucasen from Paphos, Carrere from Monaco, depending on which team you back. But yeah, I think Svensson's pretty good, and I do like the Dortmund defenders longer term. Thank you, Nahal, and let me know your thoughts in general. Long-term under 8.4 million forward. Long-term. Wow, the options are quite slim. Probably Garassi. Dumfries and Gabriel playing or not? No, they're both out. They're red flagged. I covered it multiple times in my videos and in the stream. Gabriel was out for a month or 2, and Dumfries should be available in mid-December. McTominay or David Neres? McTominay. 4 injuries and no chips. Was nice to leave my country for a week. It's still possible, but it will be difficult to maintain. But it's still... I wouldn't rule it out. With 2 free transfers, you can solve 2 of them. Maybe take a -4 hit if needed, but... yeah, we all have these things, and remember, you can still get a starting 11, you just might not be able to maximize substitutions as much as you would like. Foden captain, I'm not completely against that. He's in my top 10, and I will show you my captaincy list again very soon. Yeah, Howson and Hakimi are both sells. I mean, Hakimi's out long term, we've known that for a while. Howson will not be available for Matchday 5, and then it's Man City in 6, so he is an avoid. ¿A quién prefieres entre Ekitike, Pavlidis o Gakpo? Probablemente Pavlidis, porque Ajax está muy mal y con Ekitike siempre tienes a Isaac que puede sacar minutos. No me molesta Gakpo, digo la verdad, contra PSV y antes jugaba para ellos. Sí, creo que Gakpo. Icardi or Garassi? It's probably going to be Garassi still because long term he's the better pick. And by the way, if I were to sell Kane, I think Garassi's the most likely. Icardi or Højlund? Icardi. Icardi 2 goals, but he never starts. Yeah, that's fair enough. I mean, maybe the minutes haven't been great for him, so his minutes per goal ratio might be very impressive. I haven't checked that, to be fair. I'll have a look now and see if I can get that information quickly, but... yeah, he's getting 20 minutes per game in the Champions League. No goals in this competition yet. And in the Turkish League, he has 5 starts, averaging 50 minutes per game, and he's got 7 goals. Yeah, it's difficult to judge him, but I'm not so sure. Yeah, I've covered this already, mate, with Vinicius. I mean, there are multiple reasons. He didn't even start over the weekend, and I think he will against Olympiacos, but he's in bad form. I'm not saying he can't do well against Olympiacos, but there are also reports of him falling out with Xabi Alonso. He's one of the players kind of driving his exit. Yeah, something isn't quite right with Vinicius this season. He hasn't been playing well whatsoever. I'm not really too keen on him. Even in that Limitless video, I talked about him as an option, mainly referring to his history and, the player that we have seen in the Champions League over the years, but not really too much to be said about this season. He had a good start for the first couple of matches, but then tailed off very quickly. Yeah, I think Icardi will be on penalties, but I did see some people mention that Yilmaz would be the one. And I could see myself regretting selling Yilmaz on the Limitless, but I don't think I'm going to go for him over these 5 midfielders and McTominay. But yeah, difficult one to say. I mean, if it was me, I'd guess it would be Icardi, but I saw some tweets earlier saying that Yilmaz will be on penalties in Osimhen's absence. I think Gutierrez will start for Napoli. But yeah, I think defensively they're a bit suspect. They are top of the clean sheet odds this week. I'll probably go for one of their defenders like Di Lorenzo, who got an assist over the weekend, but I wouldn't be doubling or tripling up. At 4 million, it's okay. Yeah, same here. With the goalkeepers, that's the biggest conundrum on the Limitless. Thinking of Ekitike as an option for the third choice attacker. Well, I talked to someone just now in Spanish and they asked me about Ekitike, Gakpo and Pavlidis. I'd probably pick Gakpo for this week specifically. And with Ekitike, you'd expect him to start, but there is always the rotation risk and maybe minutes will be eaten up by Alexander Isak as well. Yeah, probably. As I've said multiple times, I'm not going to lie to you. Wildcard this week looks a bit awkward, Parsak. I used it back in Matchday 2, and for a lot of people that would facilitate a Matchday 5 Limitless, but I just think the wildcard is better deployed in Matchday 6. Because if you use it now, you're probably going to avoid a lot of Arsenal and Bayern Munich players, and they've got some good fixtures afterwards, and you might want the likes of Kane in your setup long term. Alvarez won Matchday early. I'm not against that, and Inter Milan have lost a few big games this season. In fact, they've lost most of them. Gordon is available. I think he'll be on the bench. I couldn't really guarantee if he's going to start or not, but I think Harvey Barnes will get the nod. Keep Alvarez or sell? Keep. Is Guirassy or Icardi better on Limitless? I'd lean towards Guirassy. Svensson or Ryerson? Svensson. Yildiz might not start. I read out a predicted 11 by Sky Sports Italia. No Vlahovic and no Yildiz there. I would go for Bellingham. Vinicius or Bellingham? The most informed is Bellingham. He's showing more consistency this season. I'd probably go for him, but would it surprise me if Vinicius outscored him? No, it really wouldn't. He was in my original Limitless video for a reason, but he has been in poor form. Yeah, Gakpo could be decent actually for the Limitless. I'm not against that. Have 2 defenders injured. So do I. I think a lot of us have Gabriel and Dumfries out. Have a sneaky feeling Haaland is rested. It's possible. FPL Main Road on Twitter did kind of insinuate that there is rotation and that there are a lot of key changes. If Haaland's one of them, it would be a big shame. Pavlidis a shout on Limitless against the shaky Ajax defense? Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I'll be honest though, I think Mbappe and Haaland are the standouts, assuming they start, and then I'd be looking at Kane, Guirassy, maybe Icardi, and then I'd get to Pavlidis. Carreras is okay, but long term I wouldn't go for him. He's 1 yellow card away from suspension. My favourite Real Madrid defender right now is Trent Alexander-Arnold. Best 4.5 defender? Difficult to say. You might be looking at a Napoli player like Miguel Gutierrez, to be fair, when it comes to that, but yeah, there aren't many standouts at that price point and below. Galatasaray defender or Benfica? Galatasaray. Courtois is out with illness, as covered earlier. And as I also mentioned earlier, the plan is to use the Limitless. What you see on screen is just my squad without making any transfers, but I talked about many different things. What I would do are 2 free transfers, which is Di Lorenzo and Nuno Mendes in for Gabriel and Dumfries. And I also showed these teams. So this one is the Limitless squad. This one is a wildcard team, but they are not set in stone. And with this one in particular, especially if I see more rumours of like Foden being benched or just Man City players in general, then I could sell Foden to McTominay and just make a few more modifications. Hi Dylan, if I Limitless, will I not receive any more transfers? You will still have 2 free transfers, nothing changes. Transferring my regular 2 for this week, then using Limitless right away will work? No, they will just form part of your Limitless, that's it. Best strike outside Mbappe Haaland? Kane. Which Dortmund defender do you recommend for wildcard? Need to recover 5 to 8. Probably Ryerson. Now, for Matchday 5 specifically, I'm going to go for Emre Can, but he's not someone I want longer term. So if I was wildcarding and wanted that Dortmund defender, I'd probably go for Ryerson. And in fact, he would make it into my wildcard squad. I have 0 million in the bank. My squad value is 102.6 million when you also factor in what I have in the bank as well. Gakpo or Pavlidis? Yeah, Gakpo. I mentioned that just now. Who's the best defender playing today who costs up to 5.1 million? Very specific. I think Davinson Sanchez would be slightly appealing. I think Ryerson's also decent. And Di Lorenzo is 5.3, I think. So you're maybe looking at another Napoli defender like Miguel Gutierrez. So those would be the standouts. Best defender today. Best defender today. Maybe Emre Can? Yeah, I think so. Or Di Lorenzo, one of those two. Can, Højlund, or Cucurella captain today? I'd maybe take a punt on Can there. What about doubling up on Galatasaray, Sane and Sanchez? Yeah, Sane is another option I'm considering in the midfield. I used to big him up all the time in UCL Fantasy, but he hasn't been as consistent over the last couple of seasons. But yeah, for this match day, one of him or Yilmaz could certainly be the standout. Gutierrez or Dan Burn? Probably Gutierrez, also based on the fixtures. Otamendi or Trent? Trent. Upamecano or Gvardiol? Gvardiol, but there is a possibility of rotation there. Lewandowski is decent on the Limitless, but I still prefer Kane and Guirassy. Have Ajax got any better? No, they haven't. They lost over the weekend again. They're 6th in the Eredivisie. 4 games without a win. I'm just going to double check that. Yeah. They've got 2 wins out of the last 10 as well. There was a 2-1 loss over the weekend. Before that, they lost 2-1 before the international break. Obviously, the 3-0 loss against Ajax, which led to Heitinga being sacked. It's not looking good. Dumfries could be back for Matchday 7. I don't think he'll be available for Matchday 6, though. I read out a report earlier, which was relayed by Inter Extra on Twitter, and it looks like he'll be available between the 14th and 19th of December. Sane or Yilmaz? I'm going to say Yilmaz, but I'm probably going to sell him on the Limitless and just have him for Matchday 6. Sane or McTominay? McTominay. Any Chelsea assets to use this week? I'm not particularly keen, but probably Enzo Fernandez, Esteval. I think those two would be my favourites. I mean, even Pedro Neto could be deployed quite often, running in behind and stretching that Barca defence. But I think Esteval would be my favourite one. Why is Alonso messing up with the team? He just needs to play his best players. I'm not sure if it's that simple. It's also a question of player power. You know, Vinicius, for example, isn't happy because, you know, he's not getting as much game time, but he hasn't been great whenever he does play. So, I don't know. Sometimes I sympathise with the manager, and I think Xabi Alonso is a good coach. He showed it at Bayer Leverkusen, but look, he's still top of La Liga. The last 3 games haven't been good enough, though, and some reports indicate if he doesn't win against Olympiacos, he could be sacked. En el Limitless, ¿por qué Can y no Benzebani? Porque Benzebani está recuperando de una lesión, está entrenando, pero muchos reportes dicen que no va a jugar contra Villarreal como titular. Who do you think is better between Højlund and Pavlidis? Højlund, Adeyemi Burka, or Guirassy and Barris? Yeah, probably Guirassy and Barris, actually. I like that. Di Lorenzo or Quenda? Di Lorenzo. Benzebani will not start according to multiple sources. If you think he does, then go for something different. Yeah, Emre Can should start this week. He's also on penalties when he does start, and Benzebani probably won't get the nod. Anton or Can? For Matchday 5, it's Can. Longer term, Anton is safer. Why Yamal? Because he scores and assists in most games, and Chelsea have been good, but they're still quite suspect defensively, and Barca are still top 3 attacking teams in the world. I'd expect them to score a goal or 2 at Stamford Bridge. Is it a good time to do wildcard? I've already used Limitless. I don't think so. I'd rather use it in 6. Someone said reports suggest Foden won't start. If you have a link to that, Mano, let me know. Because I was already having second thoughts about Foden and selling him to McTominay. So I'd really appreciate if you have that link so I can, you know, see how reliable this source is and then maybe act upon that information. But thank you for that. I'm also going to have a look on Twitter and on Google, seeing if I can get any Man City predicted 11s. So just bear with me for a second. as I try to get this information. So this one is by Manchester Evening News. They've got Foden in there. So they've gone for Donnarumma, Stones, Diaz, Gavardio, O'Reilly, Gonzalez, Reinders, Foden, Cherki, Savinho, and Haaland. So no Doku in this one. Let's now check the London Evening Standard. Okay, so with this one, they've gone for Donnarumma, Nunes, Stones, Gavardio, 8, Nuri, Nico Gonzalez, Reinders, Cherki, Marmoush, Savinho, and Haaland. So no Foden and no Doku. Interesting. Let me check Man City Extra. And they're a bit like Inter Extra, you know, all these web pages, they're relaying information. They're not a source in of itself. So apparently Osimhen was in the 11 that Galatasaray posted, but then they changed it. They deleted that post, and he's not in the squad anymore. So that's quite strange. Let's see if I can get City Extra. Yeah, I haven't seen the... Okay, here. Predicted 11. So... Donnarumma, Nunes, Diaz, Stones, O'Reilly, Nico, Reinders, Foden, Doku, Haaland, Marmoush. So the majority of them do have Foden in there, but... Yeah, not an absolute guarantee. Okay, so that'll be interesting to monitor. Ultimately, with any City player, it's a risk-reward scenario, and at least they play today, so you can sub them out if necessary. Okay, so let's go through the super chats. Let's see. Thank you to My Fairground. You didn't have to do that, and yeah, YouTube, take the piss, by the way, but thank you very much, and yeah, buenos dias, buenas noches, whatever you want to say. Garassi or Kane on Limitless? Yeah, Kane for me still. Paxal or Nemecha? Nemecha might not start, so it would be Igor Paxal by default. Sane or Kvaratskhelia? Kvaratskhelia. And you can see this Limitless team on screen. I've gone for Kvaratskhelia. Limitless is, yeah, like a free hit, but you have no budget restrictions. You can go for the most expensive players if you want. Why are you not going for Otamendi? Well, because Benfica are 35th in the league table. They're not looking that solid. I went for Otamendi in Matchday 1 with the wild card in Matchday 2, you know, play, and it went horribly wrong. So, yeah, I would like to think I've learned from that mistake. Otamendi was a good UCL Fantasy asset over the years. Even in Club World Cup Fantasy, he showed something over the summer, but yeah, it's been a different story in this competition. Yeah, Emre Can, I mean, I've been asked about him to death. I mean, I don't know what else I can say, really, but Emre Can should start in Matchday 5. A lot of different sources and pages have indicated that he will start because Ben Sebaini is in training, but he's been nursing an injury, and they're going to manage his fitness. So Emre Can should start. He's also on penalties when he does start, just like Ben Sebaini, and that's why I've gone for him as my Dortmund defender. But if you don't want to go for him, feel free. He has been awful in UCL Fantasy so far because he hasn't had the minutes, but if he does get 60 plus, then I think he could be fairly decent. Hakimi and Howson to Van Dijk and Livramento, thoughts? Livramento, I'm not so sure. I know that Trippier is unavailable, but Livramento could still be managed when it comes to the game time. But yeah, Van Dijk looks really solid. I like that. I'd rather go for Burn. I'm not sure where you've seen that Ben Sebaini starts, mate. Best goalkeeper tomorrow? Fucking voice crack. Then that isn't Lunin. Difficult to say. Probably Alisson. Maybe the Copenhagen goalkeeper. Yeah, but it's probably Alisson in isolation. I just don't really like the goalkeepers on Wednesday. I don't think Gordon starts. Burn or Sanchez. Long term, it's Burn. But on the Limitless in Matchday 5, it would be Davinson Sanchez, which is why I've currently gone for him. Vinicius on Limitless isn't terrible, but he's been in quite poor form overall. Yeah, sorry about that, Sid. I didn't mean to. I'll have a look now. Pick 2 between Foden, Jude, Fermin Lopez, and McTominay. For Matchday 5, it's Jude and Foden for me, but I have more concerns about Foden starting than the others. And if I decide to replace Foden, McTominay will be next in line. So that's my opinion, Bellingham and Foden. But just bear in mind that Foden is a rotation risk. Yeah, Di Lorenzo should start. I'd have no concerns about that. Scoreline predictions. Okay, I'll read that through quickly, and then I'm going to go through all the graphics one more time, because afterwards I want to lock in my final squad, and I think the Limitless will be deployed. So I did show you some of my scoreline predictions in Predict 6, but for Galatasaray, Union Saint-Gilloise, I'm going to go for 2-0 Galatasaray. Ajax Benfica, I think 2-1 Benfica. Napoli Karabag, 3-1 Napoli. Marseille Newcastle 2-2. Bodo Glimt Juventus, maybe 1-0 Juventus. Slavia Prague Athletic Bilbao, 1-1. Borussia Dortmund Villarreal, 2-0. Yeah, maybe 2-0. Man City Leverkusen 3-1. Chelsea Barcelona 2-2. Copenhagen Kara Almaty. I'm going to go for 3-1 Copenhagen. Paphos Monaco, 2-1 Monaco. Frankfurt Atalanta, I'm going to say 3-2 Frankfurt. Sporting Club Bruges, 2-1 Sporting. PSG Tottenham. Yeah, I might go for a big win here. Yeah, 2-0 PSG. I was thinking of 3-0. Liverpool PSV, 2-1 Liverpool. Arsenal Bayern Munich 2-1. Atletico and Inter 1-1. And then for Real Madrid, might be a 3-1 here as well. I'm not expecting many clean sheets. I think it's quite difficult to come by. Should I take a 4-point loss to change Gabriel for Virgil? I don't think so. If you use Limitless and not use free transfers, do those transfers accumulate? No. You'll still have the same number. You'll have 2 transfers in Matchday 6. If it says you got free, ignore it, because this happened to me with the wildcard earlier in the season. I played the wildcard, then in Matchday 3 it said I had free transfers. I used them, and then it said I took a -4 hit. Yeah, Greenwood's decent. He's in great form, but I think Marseille Newcastle's quite tough to call. But he's in great form alongside Aubameyang. Yeah, -4 for Mbappe is worth it, in my opinion, but it's also dependent on who you're selling. I would switch Salah to McTominay. I'm considering Foden out for McTominay, but yeah, I could well bring in the Scottish person in. Should I use the Joker? The Joker? If you're talking about Predict 6, I think they now call it the ×2 booster, and they have done for a while. As for chips and UCL Fantasy, I'd recommend the Limitless this week. I'm not that confident about Salah. The same goes for a lot of players this week in general, but I still think I can gain a lot of points from using this chip now. Nemecha, I like him, but in the predicted lineups I've seen, he is not in those starting 11s. As I mentioned before, with Vlahovic, both him and Yildiz were not in the Sky Sports Italia predicted 11, and they've been very reliable when it comes to Inter Milan. We'll see how they fare with Juventus, but I'm not even sure if Vlahovic starts. Yeah, Ethan, I've already done this throughout the stream, to be honest, so I'd highly recommend rewinding to the beginning. I'm going to go through some things now, but there's going to be a few things that aren't going to be covered again, so just bear that in mind. So if you are new to the channel, join my UCL Fantasy League. The code is SEINOF. It's one of the biggest UCL Fantasy Leagues in the world, and I think last year and the year before, we had the very biggest in general. With Predict 6, you can see the scoreline predictions. I mentioned some of them already when going through every single game, and there could still be a few modifications before the deadline. When it comes to chips, the Limitless is the most popular this week with 45% of the vote. No chip is second, and the wildcard is third with 14%. So I did go through the Galatasaray and, well, all the lineups basically, Union Saint-Gilloise, Ajax and Benfica, but the big news is that Osimhen does not start, and the 11s I showed you for Galatasaray were pretty much spot on by UEFA and all these different reliable sources from Turkey. And here you can see Ajax versus Benfica, both of them in the bottom of the table in 36th and 35th respectively. You can also see my team selection graphics, and I will give you an indication of what I could do with 2 free transfers, but I think the Limitless is the most likely this week. There is a review on screen of Matchday 4. Your comments won't be highlighted in these sections and graphics, but they will be later on when I go back to the UCL Fantasy website and start locking in the Limitless squad. But Matchday 4 was still fairly decent despite a few disappointments here and there. It was yet another green arrow. And since Matchday 2, I've gone from around 200, 300k in the world to 8,000 overall. So a very good rank rise. And for Matchday 5, I would like to sell Raya to Donnarumma, but not in the long term. Gabriel to Van Dijk also looks quite appealing. The same goes for Dumfries to Nuno Mendes. Those are two transfers I'd like to make on the wildcard or using free transfers, of course. And that's something I could think about in Matchday 6. Now, Yilmaz to Kvaratskhelia is something I'm looking at, but I do like Yilmaz for Matchday 5, and he does start in the early kickoff. And Osimhen doesn't, so this transfer is officially ruled out, and Harry Kane could be my final striker, even with the Limitless booster. So Kvaratskhelia would be the starting goalkeeper. He obviously features tomorrow, just like David Raya. They both clash in Matchday 5, and I knew that when I bought both of them in on the Matchday 2 wildcard. But yeah, Kvaratskhelia would be the preference against Frankfurt away. And defensively, I'm down to the bare bones. Even by buying Di Lorenzo and Nuno Mendes, I would have Gusto at home to Barcelona. There's no guarantee he starts. And Bern is facing Marseille away. In the midfield, Yildiz might not even start as well. That's what multiple reports are indicating. But Yilmaz, Fermin Lopez and Igor Paxal are okay this week, but I'd be more keen on them from Matchday 6 to 8. Mbappe, Kane and Haaland looks great. I don't think I'd change that too much on the Limitless either. Kane is the only question mark for the upcoming deadline. And on the bench, Raya, Saka, Nuno Mendes and Bensabani, who probably won't start. And by the way, for any Tuesday player, make sure they're in your starting 11, and then you can sub them out for those yet to play on the Wednesday. And make sure to captain a Tuesday player first. And that's why my top recommendation is Erling Haaland. And on the Wednesday, I would keep it simple and go for Kylian Mbappe. I will also show you the top 10 captains right now, or in a little bit, I should say, because there are also clean sheet and goal scorer odds to go through. Napoli are top with 50% against Karabakh at home. Copenhagen, Man City, PSG, Real Madrid and Liverpool are in the top 6, whilst Bayer Leverkusen are last with a 7% probability. You can also see the teams from 7th onwards, and you've got Monaco, Dortmund, Galatasaray, Sporting, Benfica, Athletic Bilbao, Atletico Madrid, Arsenal, Juventus, Newcastle, and even more in order of their clean sheet odds. And these are all taken by the website fantasyfootballpundit.com. With the goal scorer odds, Haaland is top, and I think his probability has actually risen to 70%. Mbappe, Isak, Osimhen, Guirassy are in the top 5, but you can ignore Osimhen because he's not even starting, and all of these are with the assumption that these players start. Salah, Ousmane Dembele, Luis Suarez, Ekitike, Pavlidis, the Copenhagen striker, Burev as well from Monaco, Luka, Jonathan David and Vlahovic complete the top 15. I think Kvaratskhelia is just behind them, but Vlahovic might not start. The same goes for Yildiz, as covered earlier. And last but not least are the top 10 captains. I've got Erling Haaland in number 1 spot, Mbappe second. Don't captain Mbappe. You can do that tomorrow if Haaland doesn't deliver today. Osimhen is third, but you can ignore him because he doesn't feature, and I was always quite wary about that. Salah, Foden, Kvaratskhelia, Bellingham, Yamal, Kane and Guirassy make up a sort of rough top 10. And let me now show you those injury updates and team news, but of course I covered even more earlier in the stream. So you saw the Champions League table just now. McTominay is a very good midfielder on the wild card and for the next 3 match days. And you can see some of the most informed players on screen and the top goal scorers, but Osimhen will not add to his goal tally of 6, and that gives the likes of Haaland, Kane and Mbappe an opportunity to become the top scorer of the Champions League. Gordon, Lautaro Martinez and Rashford all have 4 goals. And with Player of the Match awards, Osimhen leads the way with 3. Foden, Kane, Mbappe, Lukasen, and Nuno Mendes and Van Dijk all have 2. The same goes for Marcus Thuram as well. With Galatasaray, no need to go through this, of course, because we know they're 11. And with Dortmund, there is no Nemecha or Bensabani in their predicted 11, but Emre Can does make it. And with Arsenal, Bayern Munich, we'll probably see something like this, and it will be an unchanged side for Arsenal to the one that beat Tottenham Hotspur 4-1 on Sunday, and Bayern Munich won 6-2 on Saturday. Elise was the star with 2 goals and a hat-trick of assists. So, yeah, with Galatasaray, I'm going to kind of skip through those news, and you could have, I obviously talked about this earlier, but Osimhen does not make it in the end. And next up is with Bensebaini. He's in training, but I don't think he's going to start. Anthony Gordon is fit and he travelled with the Newcastle squad, but Kieran Trippier is still feeling the effects of a hamstring injury, and Eddie Howe doesn't know when he'll return. Denzel Dumfries is out for the next couple of weeks, and it looks like he'll target a return between December the 14th and December the 19th with an ankle injury. Antonio Conte said Højlund and Romani were substituted for technical reasons, but both are doing well. For Gilmour and Spinazzola, I can't tell you the recovery times. Lukaku is not yet ready. And there is the possibility of Kang In Lee starting against Tottenham. He obviously scored in the UEFA Super Cup final a couple of months ago, but Ousmane Dembele has been in training, and I think he'll be a substitute in Matchday 5 tomorrow. And with Barcelona, Rafinha and Joan Garcia are back. Obviously, the Spanish goalkeeper started over the weekend, and Rafinha provides a massive boost. He'll probably be on the bench at Stamford Bridge tonight. So there you go, in-depth coverage, everything you need to know. We've still got a lot of people watching, 1,300 and counting really. So let's get the likes up. 400 is the big aim, and let's close in on new goals like 38k on YouTube. We actually hit 37,000 in a recent UCL Fantasy Deadline stream, but I've got to lock in my Limitless team very soon. So after answering a few more questions, that will be the next step, because I don't want to leave anything to chance. Vlahovic might not start. I literally just said that, mate. So by default, Icardi. Trubin, Raya, DeMarco, Bacho, Byrne, Bensebaini, Gabriel, Yilmaz, Fermin Lopez, McTominay, Vitinha, Saka, Haaland, Mbappe, Lautaro. 2 free transfers, 0 in the bank with Limitless left. You're not in a terrible position, to be fair. But Gabriel is obviously a sell, and you could go to Van Dijk. Since you've got Bacho already, I don't necessarily mind having Nuno Mendes as well. And let's not forget with the Portuguese left-back, he's 1 yellow card away from suspension. But yeah, that is definitely the one you want to look at. And apart from that, I think the rest looks fairly solid. Maybe Bensebaini sold as well, because I don't think he'll start. So Gabriel to Virgil van Dijk maybe. And Bensebaini to maybe a Napoli defender. That could work fairly well. Miguel Gutierrez could be the one at 4 million as well. It's team dependent, Eno, but I think for a lot of people who wildcarded in 2, the Limitless in 5 makes a lot of sense. Especially if you've got Carnesecchi and Raya as your goalkeepers, you've got Gabriel and Dumfries, you've also got Yildiz and Bensebaini. I think it's just a great time to Limitless. Thoughts on Kvaratskhelia for Saka? Not for a hit. I like Kvaratskhelia a lot this week, but Saka did score against Bayern Munich a few years ago. He is a big game player, and he's shown decent goal-scoring form for club and country. So, not for me. Yeah, Bensebaini might not play yet, unfortunately. I mean, he's just coming off the back of an injury, and all the reports for the last week or so indicated that he will be managed. Any Juve players worth looking at? I mean, if you want to go for 1 week punt, maybe Openda, Cambiasso defensively, Kalulu, but I'm struggling, to be honest. By the way, Di Lorenzo is trash as a regular Serie A watcher. Go for Gutierrez or Buongiorno. He did get an assist over the weekend, and I think Di Lorenzo was better a few years ago. But yeah, he's been in terrible form this season, especially in the Champions League. -4 Rashford out, Mbappe in. I think so. There is a chance that Rashford doesn't even start. Can we break up the big 3 with Guirassy? The thing is, Guirassi's not showing great form, but you can break it up. I just wouldn't do it long term. On the Limitless, I'm more keen on selling Kane for Guirassy, but I would want Kane back for matchday 6 to 8. Thoughts on Greenwood? Yeah, he's been asked about a lot of times and I've answered it. Yeah, I think Greenwood is a decent option, but Newcastle, Marseille is a tough game to call. Van Dijk o Nuno, Nuno Mendes. ¿Tienes algún squad que puedas recomendar para Wildcard? Sí, ya lo hice. Así que mira, este es el equipo para Sin Límites. Y esto es el equipo de Wildcard. Ya lo hablé bastante en el video de ayer. Hice un upload, un triple upload, 3 videos en un día. Y hice unos cambios para si quieres. Y con Foden, por ejemplo, no tienes que ir por él. Especialmente si no tienes el dinero. Igor Paxao está bien. Anthony Gordon, aunque yo no creo que va a jugar o empezar el partido contra Marsella. Szoboszlai no es malo. Vitinha es un buen jugador para tener, pero sí creo que haría algo así. O puedes ir por Vitinha y después Olise. Pero también tener a Olise y Kane contra Arsenal no me gusta mucho, te digo la verdad. Así que yo iría por esto. Y hay algunas dudas de Foden empezando el partido, como dije en inglés, así que tienes que tener cuidado. So this is the Limitless team now, and yeah, I'm going to start locking this in. Ryerson or Svensson from this game week to the end? Probably Svensson. Best City defender purely for Matchday 5 Limitless. I've been saying Gavardio quite consistently, but I don't think any City defender is safe this week. I don't think Salah will get benched personally, but if you feel that way, then don't go for him. Yeah, I probably will. I've said that a lot of times. How about Rashford? I don't think he starts. Yeah, Alisson will start, like he did over the weekend in that 3-0 loss against Forest. Does one free transfer carry on if I feel like making only one move? Gavardio for Gabriel. Yes, I believe so. You can only roll in the league phase, by the way. You can't do that in future rounds of the competition. You can literally see it on screen, eFootball Addict. And yesterday I did a triple upload, best Limitless team, wildcard squad, and my team selection, so it's all covered there. Icardi or Kane? Kane for me. Tengo a Mastantuono, Dumfries y Gabriel con lesión, y Rashford, ¿crees que es buen momento para utilizar Limitless? Sí, porque yo creo que Rashford no va a empezar. También Vlahovic, Yildiz y Benzebani creo que no van a empezar el partido. Así que es un buen momento para usar el sin límites. Best 7-point family and striker. Pavlidis, if he's still relevant. Yeah, I think he would be up there. Do you think Alisson? Yeah, covered. Icardi, Rashford, Icardi. I think Foden will start, but I'm not certain. There is the possibility I sell him just because of the doubts I've got. Can you do transfers then Limitless? Not really. The transfers that you make will be part of the Limitless squad. That's it. You're not really doing anything, clever there. Garassi or Kane for Limitless? I am open to Garassi, but he hasn't really shown the form recently. So if I actually break down his recent goal scoring, I believe he's got 3 goals out of the last 10 matches. So he hasn't scored in the last 3. Wow. In fact, he's got 1 goal in the last 10. That's pretty poor. Yeah, he's not really hit the heights of last season, unfortunately. And I think he started this campaign quite well. But ever since October, he has kind of tailed off. But look, Garassi's still good. He's one of the kind of main contenders to take Harry Kane's spot here. But I think I'm going to go for Harry Kane personally. And maybe the fact that I'm an Arsenal fan plays a big part. Adeyemi, yeah. I think Adeyemi's a good pick. Adeyemi's better than Garassi. This season, yes, he has been, but that wasn't the case last time out. Is Emre Can the most likely Dortmund defender to play? Not necessarily. I think that would be Svensson or Anton. But with Emre Can, he could be on penalties in the absence of Benzebani. And he was quite good in UCL Fantasy last season when he started and got plenty of game time. Yeah, probably. As I mentioned countless times, I'm not going to lie. What about Larson? Yeah, I think a Copenhagen striker would be decent, and he's my favourite Copenhagen asset overall. Sí, creo que va a jugar Højlund. I asked you, can you do transfers then Limitless? Won't transfers stay for next week? Well, no, mate, because you're making transfers and then you're activating the Limitless. So then those transfers form part of the Limitless squad, but you're not going to make transfers for next week. That's not how it works in UCL Fantasy. I've seen some people say that they have been able to do it, but I'm not sure because I've never done that before. And yeah, ultimately, if you look at the rules, it's been quite clear there as well. Tengo a Yamal, Kvaratskhelia, Bellingham y McTominay. Debería cambiar por Salah Foden. No necesariamente. Me gusta McTominay y es posible que va a estar en mi equipo final. Tengo dudas de Foden y si va a empezar el partido. Si no, creo que Foden es uno de los mejores o para la jornada 5, pero me gusta tu mediocampo. Long-term defenders, Hincapié, Nuno Mendes, Virgil van Dijk, Di Lorenzo, Miguel Gutierrez, Ryerson. I think that's quite a few. And you can see even more in my wildcard video. And also in this wildcard team on screen. So just have a look and see what you think. Dan Burn is yet another example. What about Gordon? What do you think? He will start? I don't think he'll start, no. No worries, Sova Gamer. Look, if you do that, you make 2 transfers, then Limitless, let me know. I mean, I might even do it myself just to get the doubt away. But yeah, I think that wouldn't really make any sense because people ask the same thing in FPL with a free hit and well, wildcard is different, of course, but it never works with a free hit, and the same goes for the Limitless in UCL Fantasy. McTominay or Vinicius on Limitless? McTominay. Yildiz will probably not start, according to Sky Sports Italia. Why would you replace Di Lorenzo, though? I mean, I'd personally keep him, but yeah, on the Limitless, for example, if you don't want to go for him, then you might want to go for Bacho and triple up on PSG. I think that's not too shabby. Or you go for a Copenhagen player. Which City mid? Foden is my favourite, but he is a rotation risk. Yep, Osimhen is out. We've got the lineup already for Galatasaray. He's not in the squad. Ben Sebaini is in training. He will be in that Dortmund squad tonight, but I don't think he starts. Courtois is ruled out. That was confirmed by Real Madrid, so Lunin will start. I don't think Vlahovic starts, according to Sky Sports Italia, who have been very reliable with Inter Milan starting 11s. I haven't seen their work with Juventus and other clubs. We'll see how it pans out, but if they got the same level of reliability when it comes to Juventus, then yes, Vlahovic will be on the bench. Okay, Gabriel to Gavardio and save 1 free transfer, or Gabriel and Benzabani to Di Lorenzo and Van de Ven Borro. I would go to Di Lorenzo and then a Spurs defender, but that's the problem with buying them in. Van de Ven, for example, 1 yellow card away from suspension, and they're facing PSG away this week, so I would rather just buy a different defender entirely, like Konate, for example. Icardi, Vlahovic, Garassi, Limitless. Not Vlahovic for me. I don't think he starts based on what I just said. Icardi's good. I would rank Garassi a little bit higher, though. Yes, Greenwood is a good option. Elise might be better. Bet over Foden doubts. Yeah, but I don't see myself going for Kane and Elise. Now, if I decided to go for Garassi or Icardi instead of Harry Kane, then maybe I'd be open to it. But I think McTominay is the most likely to break into this midfield rather than Elise. ¿Qué opinas de Fermín López en el Sin Límites? Está bien, pero prefiero a Yamal. Osimhen, keep or sell? Yes, he's a sell. Best replacement, Garassi. Icardi and Foden or Kane and Sane? Long term, Kane and Sane. Buongiorno's okay. I don't think any Napoli player particularly stands out in the defense. McTominay's the best overall. But yeah, he's okay. Hey Dylan, what do you think of Carreras? He is 1 yellow card away from suspension. I don't mind having a Madrid defender this week, though. Yeah, Ivan Schneider, I don't know how many times you're going to ask it, and other people, I've been very consistent on this. You see a Limitless team on screen, and my plan was always to Limitless in 5. I've always tried to keep my options open, because sometimes you can find a different path, but with all the injuries I've got and the doubts, like Ben Sebaini and Yildiz, I just don't see myself doing that well without the Limitless chip. Why not Trent? Because I've got Lunin in goal, and I've got Bellingham and Mbappe, so it requires selling one of them. Best defenders to replace Gabriel and Dumfries. I think, yeah, Nuno Mendes and Van Dijk on paper. Yes, this team is Limitless. You could not afford it otherwise. That's why it says minus 11.8 million on screen. You likely get clean sheets today, Dortmund or Juventus. Well, to be fair, I did go for clean sheets for both of them, but I'm more convinced about Dortmund. I'm less keen on Juventus, actually. So Emre Can is my pick. Do you think Alisson will start? Yes. He started over the weekend. He's first choice for Liverpool. Can, Ottomani, Di Lorenzo pick 2. Well, you see 2 of them on screen, right? So the one that isn't there, I'm not going to go for him. Otamendi will not make it. Will O'Reilly start? There's a possibility he doesn't. If you're asking me, I don't think he does. But maybe I'm wrong. Kirkers or Robertson? I think it'll be Robertson. Like I said, sell Osimhen. Garassi replacement. Bye-bye. Kane, Haaland and Mbappe en el Sin Límites, creo que sí, pero si quieres ir por alguien diferente que Kane, está Icardi y Garassi, que son los mejores para reemplazarlo. Creo que Vlahovic no va a empezar contra Bodo Glimt. Thoughts on Milenkovic? I'm guessing that's Milinkovic-Savic. Yeah, good option on the wild card to partner Carnesecchi. I think Barcola will start. Luis Gonzalez, I'm sorry, mate, but I've covered this question so many times, I'm kind of getting sick of it. But basically, Ben Sebaini's in training, but he's not ready to start yet, and many different predicted lineups have Emre Can there. Normally when he starts, he's on penalties. There you go. McTominay over Yamal? Possibly. I'm more keen on selling one of Foden or Salah instead. Best Real Madrid defender for Limitless? Trent. Di Lorenzo, good captaincy pick. Not for me. Emre Can or any Copenhagen defenders? Probably Emre Can. Courtois is out. Thoughts on having Rafinha and Yamal on Limitless? Rafinha probably won't start, so Yamal's enough. Okay, so I've answered a lot of questions here. We're kind of going around in circles in some of them. I'm going to play the Limitless this week, and I'm just going to have another look at a Man City predicted 11, seeing if Foden starts or not, because, yeah, I know he plays today, but I still would rather avoid these massive rotation risks if possible. So, yeah, I'm having a look right now. So yeah, let me just get this up as well, because a lot of people are asking me about these teams, or Juventus in particular. So look, this is Sky Sports Italia. They've gone for Perrin, Kalulu, Kelly, Coop Miners, Cambiasso, Locatelli, Adzic, Kostic, Conceição, McKennie, and Openda. So no Vlahovic and no Yildiz. I'm quite keen on just getting rid of these players and using the Limitless. So, with all that information I provided, I'm going to start locking it in. This is a wildcard squad I would build if I was using it this week. I think it's a bit of an awkward time to do so. And let's just have a quick look here. So we still have over 1,000 people watching. Drop a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. I've answered hundreds of questions and provided everything you need to know for Matchday 5 and beyond. So let's get to 400 likes and close in on new goals like 38k on YouTube. That would be massively appreciated. Yeah. Okay, so I've had a look. I haven't found anything with Man City, to be honest. I'm even typing stuff like Foden rested on Twitter, and I'm just not really seeing anything. So, yeah. For those that have seen the Foden, like rumors of him being benched, drop a link in the live chat. It would be greatly appreciated. Salah or McTominay? Probably Salah, but I do like McTominay. I want to find a way to bring him in. Dylan, get Savinho or Reinders? Yeah, I have Reinders in FPL. I'm sick of the guy. I'm not so sure about that. Limitless is better than Wildcard in my opinion. I've mentioned that consistently. Check out my chip strategy guide as well. Hey, Dylan, Robertson or Kirkes? Neither, to be honest, but Robertson is first choice for Liverpool. ¿Qué opinas de Esteval? Para el partido contra Barcelona es mi jugador favorito de Chelsea, pero a largo plazo creo que hay mejores opciones en el mediocampo. Carreras or Asensio? Probably Asensio because Carreras is one yellow card away from suspension, but Madrid have a lot of injuries and problems at the back. I need to double check that actually for you because there is a chance that Asensio doesn't start. Let me just get that up again. Nah, Asensio, yeah, he's fine. So, yeah, because of the suspension risk, I would lean towards Asensio. Can't afford Kanate, so Robertson then instead of Borro van de Ven. I'd just go for Ryerson then from Dortmund, personally. Unless you're willing to just stomach the, 2 points or below from those Spurs defenders and then just have them ready for match day 6 to 8. Thank you to T. Salama 7. Di Lorenzo or Van Dijk for Gabriel? Probably Van Dijk. And McTominay or Yildiz or for Fermin Lopez. I think Fermin Lopez is a hold, but McTominay. Yildiz, as I just showed you, is going to be on the bench according to Sky Sports Italia. The same goes for Vlahovic. They will not start for Juventus if Sky Sports Italia are to be believed there. Find a 4.5 for O'Reilly. I'm not entirely sure if he starts or not, but it's an awkward situation. I just don't think I'd sell O'Reilly because the ceiling is still high if he does start. But yeah, with the other questions, I think I made my feelings clear. How come no Dan Burn? Well, because he's facing Marseille and I've gone for a 2-2 draw. I don't really expect a clean sheet there for Newcastle or Marseille. Screw it, not risking a City defender now. Going Otamendi, as surely Ajax are going to continue being terrible. Yes, but Ajax still score goals. You know, they don't score many, but a lot of their games are 2-1 losses, and Benfica haven't been great. Look, maybe Otamendi scores a goal, gets ball recoveries, clean sheet, and it's a massive return, and I regret it, but I just haven't seen enough from him or Benfica this season to go there. I started the campaign with Otamendi. It was a massive mistake, and yeah, probably the kind of worst part of UCL Fantasy so far this season. Dan Burn won't start with Lewis Hall back from injury. Yeah, but Livramento, I can't even get the fucking names right. Trippier is out, so we could see something a little bit different. But yeah, look, with Lewis Hall back in the equation, then yeah, Dan Burn's not a guaranteed starter. I think what could happen though is Burn will start in the Champions League, and in the Premier League, Lewis Hall will start again at left back. But he did feel some cramp towards the end of the City game, so yeah, I think there will be some rotation there. Dan Burn can also start at centre back, which is his main position, of course. But yeah, you're not going to disrupt that centre back partnership right now of Botman and Chow, which is very solid. And Livramento will be back very soon. Yeah, like Lewandowski, like I said before, Lewandowski, good player, great Champions League record, but I prefer Kane and Guirassy, possibly even Icardi as well. Hay un jugador mejor para cambiar por Salah, McTominay. Not sure if he's better. No sé si es mejor. Sanchez or Gvardiol? Probably Sanchez. Kvaratskhelia or Foden for this and long term also. Kvaratskhelia. Thoughts on double up PSG defense on Limitless? I am considering it, to be fair. I am considering it. So I'm going to play the Limitless here. And it says active, but you can still technically cancel it. But as soon as you lock it in terms of the transfers, that's it. So as you can see, I'm making wholesale changes here. 12 transfers being made. Only 3 players remain on the Limitless. But yeah, I think I have to do it. I mean, if we break this down, Gabriel and Dumfries are out. Yildiz and Bensabani, according to reports and predicted lineups, will not start. I've got Karnaseci and Raya playing on the same day. Gusto's facing Barcelona. I've got a few clashes in my 50-man squad, like Igor Paxao against Dan Burn. Fermin Lopez against Gusto. I've activated. Limitless is done. My best advice I can really give is to not copy. Follow your own path. Use my videos as a reference point, as a guide, if you will. Let's bounce ideas off each other, but copying will not get you anywhere if you want to improve as UCL Fantasy Manager. And most importantly, you're not going to have as much fun if you just copy someone else instead of making your own decisions and, you know, feeling the pain and also the glory of things going well or wrong. So let's just lock this in at least. So any player who features on the 25th, which is today, the Tuesday, make sure they're in your starting 11. So in this case, I'm going to have Van Dijk on the bench. I'm going to also start Emre Can, have these PSG players with Van Dijk and Lunin on the bench. In terms of the Tuesday-Wednesday balance, actually, I do have a lot of Tuesday players. So Donnarumma, Sanchez, Can, Di Lorenzo, Yamal, Foden, Haaland and Kane. Well, in fact, it's a nice balance. I don't think it's too much. So 8 Tuesday players and 7 on the Wednesday. Haaland captain, that speaks for itself. I think the main bits to kind of change would be the second goalkeeper. So if I did move Lunin to a different option, then I could get Trent Alexander-Arnold in that defensive line. And I think in the midfield, McTominay is the one I would want to get. But it does require selling one of these, and I'm not so sure what's going to happen. Thank you, Miles. Unfortunately, though, some people will not listen, and they'll still do it, but I tried. Thank you to Marcin. Saka over Foden. I like Saka, even against Bayern, but I still think Foden is the better pick if he starts. That's the only concern I have with Foden, whether he starts or not, and how many minutes he will get in the process. But yeah, Foden is ranked very highly in my Campsy list, and I'm actually going to show you that one more time. So you can see the clean sheet odds, goal scorer probabilities. I'll let that play out, not really, you know, highlight it too much, but yeah, I'm going to have another look as well at any Man City lineups that we may get. That would be very, very handy. I'll be honest though, in most of them, so I've seen 5 Man City predicted lineups. In one of them, I haven't seen Foden in the lineup. In every single other, he was in it. So difficult to say, to be fair. Okay. So you can see all of this, of course. Osman you can ignore. He's not playing this week, but the rest are still relevant. I'm now going to go back to my UCL Fantasy team. I am also going to have the transfer section ready just in case, because there is the possibility of late moves, because there are a few 50-50 calls in my opinion. And McTominay could be my biggest regret this week if I don't go for him. So let's now go back to the transfer section with everything else seemingly locked in. Just going to double check. So yeah, everyone who plays on the 25th is in my starting 11, and that's all you want to do. Make sure to captain a Tuesday player, and Bob's your uncle. So we do have another super chat. Let me go through that first. Best wildcard squad. Well, it was actually talked about earlier, and I have made a wildcard video. I did a triple upload yesterday, so everything you need to know was covered there. And that is essentially what I would wildcard to, what you see now on screen. So Karnaseci, Milinkovic-Savic, Nuno Mendes, Byrne, Ryerson, Van Dijk and Hincapié, Fermin Lopez, McTominay, Kvaratskhelia, maybe Foden, but you can go for Igor Paxal and other midfielders at a similar price range at 7.9 million or below. And I've gone for Yilmaz as a budget midfielder with Kane, Haaland and Mbappe. But you could also do something like this, where maybe instead of Kane, you go for Garassi, and then you go for either Elise or Saka in the midfield. Yamal is another option for you. Then you replace Fermin Lopez, unless you want to double up on the Barca attack. So there are different ways you can go about this. You've also got plenty of money in the bank, at least in my case. Some people might have even less to work with, but yeah, I would probably go for Harry Kane. I like him for the long term. And as a matchday 5 punt, I would recommend Phil Foden, but I do have some doubts about him starting, unfortunately. The other thing I showed you here was what I would have done with 2 free transfers only, and that was to buy Di Lorenzo and Nuno Mendes, but I still would have had a lot of fires and problems in my 15-man squad, in my opinion. So, as you can see, the forward line is the exact same, but I've brought in 2 new goalkeepers who look better for matchday 5, and they play on different days. I've got 5 new defenders, and also, 5 new midfielders as well? So I have made a lot of changes still, with 12 overall, and if I do sell Harry Kane, I could make it 13 in general. Okay, so we've only got 3 minutes left until we lock in. So a big up to everyone. I'm just going to make sure I've gone through the member questions and super chats. So I think I am up to date here. We did hit our goal, so that means I'm going to go live for a little while longer. A big up to all the community, and also to the new members like Markichu, also to Ahmed for gifting 5 memberships, to Serhat, and also to 96 to Johnny for all the contributions to the chat today. So thank you very much. Yeah, Bellingham is in much better form than Vinicius Jr. I've said this before. Over the weekend, he scored and assisted, whilst Vinicius didn't even start. And there are reports of a rift between Vinicius and Xabi Alonso, so it wouldn't surprise me if he was benched yet again. Yeah, exactly that, Awale. And thank you, by the way, for always moderating the chat. Well, look, it's up to you, mate, but you got to think for yourself sometimes as well. Currently 4K overall. Foden is my captain. I wish you the best. I really hope that Foden does start and gets us some points. Donnarumma or Kobel? Donnarumma. Kane plays on Wednesday. You have 7 for the Tuesday. Oh, yeah, I think you're right, actually. I don't know why I counted it that way. Wait, what? So, yeah, Donnarumma. Yeah. 7. Yeah, I've got 8 Wednesday players. I mean, it's not the end of the world. That's still a good balance, but ideally, you would have maybe more on the Tuesday. Gakpo is a must. I wouldn't call him a must, and his recent form isn't great, but I think he's a good option against PSV. I could see him scoring. Yeah, Kvaratskhelia and Vitinha is a solid midfield partnership. I would rather diversify that position, though, with 5 slots, occupying 2 from the same team. I mean, it's not terrible, and I think Vitinha is a good option, but I think Kvaratskhelia is my preference. Foden or Bellingham? Assuming he starts, it would be Foden. Subs for Paxal, Sane, Vanaken, or who? Probably Sane. Well, I've got Harry Kane already. Elise is someone I could bring in for matchday 5, actually. But, yeah, I still like Elise, by the way. But There's not space for everyone. Let's just put it that way. So that could be my final Limitless squad. No McTominay. You know what? I kind of wish I could drop Kane and go to 6 midfielders and have McTominay, but maybe that's just a dumb way of looking at it. I think I'm going to risk you a Foden in the end. I really hope it doesn't backfire. I don't know. The things I've heard today, I'm not sure if he's even a starter. That's the problem with this. Yeah, that's a bit frustrating, but there you go. It is what it is. We are locked in now, essentially. So let's just go back to my UCL Fantasy team. 5:45 PM is struck in the UK, and that means we are locked in officially. We've still got over 1,000 people watching. Drop a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And a big up to the members, super chatters, and patrons. Yeah, Kane for me, but I do like Gakpo for Matchday 5. I just think he's very inconsistent. Why is the balance of Tuesday to Wednesday plays important? Just because of the substitutions. Now, I've said this before. You shouldn't be boggled down too much on the balance. So if you've got, let's say, 11 Tuesday players, you might be thinking, oh, I've only got 4 on the Wednesday. That's not too bad, actually. If it's the other way around, where you've got 4 Tuesday players and 11 on the Wednesday, it does reduce your ability to make subs and also change the captaincy in certain situations. But ultimately, you would always captain a Tuesday player anyway. But essentially, the ideal balance is 8 on the Tuesday, 7 on the Wednesday. If it's the other way around, that's fine. Even 9-6 is a nice balance. 10-5 in favor of the Tuesday is also good. But when you start to get to, let's say, 5 Tuesday players and the rest are on the Wednesday, I just think your subs might not be as effective because you don't know who's going to score the least amount of points in your team. And that's the benefit you get by having more Tuesday players. Yep, I went for Bellingham in the end. It might be Vinicius' time to shine. I mean, that's how football is, right? But Vinicius has been awful this season. Yeah, I think Aït-Nouri could start. I wouldn't be surprised about that whatsoever. That's why I went for Donnarumma in the end. Hi, Dylan, pick 2, please. Elise, Saka, Yamal, Jude, Foden. Well, you can see it on screen, mate. The 2 that actually are in my squad. So that's Yamal and Foden. I still like Saka and... well, to be fair, I've got Jude as well. I think it would be Foden and Jude Bellingham, but I still like Yamal. Saka's not too far away. And for Elise, I like him more for matchday 6 to 8, not for matchday 5. Yeah, thank you, Dusky Artist. Doku over Foden, I'm not so sure about that. I think Doku is a bigger rotation risk, but we'll see. Because if Foden is benched and Doku starts, I'll look like an idiot. Locked in, Haaland captain, did awful last match day. Hope this match day is different. All the best. Yeah, same to you as well. We normally get early goals in these kickoffs that happen at 5:45 PM in the UK. Hopefully Galatasaray don't concede. That's all I'm asking for the Galatasaray Union Saint-Gilloise match. But yeah, I've also got Haaland captain, and let's see if rotation does us yet again. Any differentials for Limitless? Well, you might not believe it, mate, but Davinson Sanchez, 2% ownership. Emre Can, 1% ownership. Donnarumma, probably not, but I'm just checking his ownership figure. Lunin, 0% ownership. So that's 3 differentials already. Let's also look at, I think, Foden, 7% ownership. That's another differential. Di Lorenzo, 1% ownership. So not to blow smoke up my own arse or whatever they say, or whatever. There's so many different sayings for that. But essentially, I've got a lot of differentials in this Limitless team anyway. So if you want even more, Cody Gakpo. Yeah, could have been another one up front. Icardi. Leroy Sané. ¿Estás convencido que no existe una mejor opción que Van Dijk en el Limitless? Es que normalmente tenemos defensores de Arsenal, pero juegan con Bayern Múnich esta temporada o en esta jornada. Así que para mí Van Dijk está jugando bien en la Champions con dos awards, dos premios de mejor jugador del partido. Así que para mí Van Dijk es una buena opción, pero PSV está jugando bien. Están invicto en 11 partidos con 8 victorias. Así que para mí Liverpool está muy flojo y ellos perdieron 8 de los últimos 11 partidos. Pero creo que Van Dijk es una buena opción de todas maneras. Is Gvardiol starting? I'm not sure, mate. I'll be honest with you. Is Garassi and Icardi only main options? Well, I did mention Vlahovic earlier, but then I saw that predicted 11 from Sky Sports Italia, and it looks like he won't start. The same goes for Yildiz. Gakpo would have been another one to look at. Pavlidis in the early kickoff. So those would have been the main contenders, actually. Chan to Trent and Jude to McTominay. Yeah, but the reason why I didn't do that is because I don't want to double up on Madrid defensively. I think Olympiacos could score, but maybe I'll end up regretting it. It's a good suggestion, by all accounts. I'm not sure if Doku will start. I think City could rotate quite heavily. That's my main concern about this match day. Can I use my 2 transfers and still use the Limitless? Basically, as I've mentioned this so many times, if you make 2 transfers and then you Limitless, basically what you're doing is having those 2 players be part of your Limitless squad. That's it. They're not going to carry through afterwards because your team resets to how it was before you activated the Limitless. And you might be thinking, well, I made transfers first, so shouldn't that work? But people try that in FPL as well with a free hit, and it just doesn't work. Any suggestions for Gabriel? And yeah, the chat's freezing again. And Kovar playing today. Kovar? Yeah, with Gabriel, I mean, I've said that Nuno Mendes is my favourite replacement, but he's also a suspension risk. I do like Lucasen, but Emre Can is the one I went for. Thank you, Awale, and to all the moderators for the great job you've done today. Yeah, once again with Elise, matchday 6-8, absolutely fine with. Showed great form over the weekend, but against Arsenal, I'm happy with just Harry Kane, to be fair. And I think Elise is more of a, longer-term pick, but I don't like him now. I'm off to watch Icardi get a hat-trick. Well, he hasn't done that this season. I think he's got 1 brace in this campaign. We'll wait and see. Toot your own horn? Yeah, I think that's another one. I was just lost in all these sayings. Thank you for that. Good luck as well, Wei saying, Pavlidis, let's go. All the best, Alexandru. I do like Pavlidis for this week. Lunin 0%. Yeah, so it's not like I'm the only person in the world. It's just UCL Fantasy don't show you the point percentage figures. And by the way, Benfica have just scored. Probably Pavlidis, right? So enjoy the points. I will update you with the goal scorer very soon. But yeah, I'm not sure exactly what it is, but probably 0.1%. Nicholas Jackson? Nah, not for me. And I think it'll be Gnabry starting with Carl, Elise, and Kane. Good luck as well, Wally. Do you think Arsenal should sacrifice the game against Bayern to win against Chelsea? No, because Arsenal could sacrifice the game against Bayern and then drop points against Chelsea. And then you're like, wow, we've had such an important week. It started so well against Tottenham, and then we're dropping points against, the kind of more difficult tests. And Bayern Munich is going to be on another level, right? I think Arsenal and Bayern are currently the best teams in Europe. I get what you're saying. I think Arsenal should see the Chelsea game as more important because they've got a bit of a gap in the Champions League and they can still finish top 3 even if they drop points against Bayern. But I think just take every single game as they come, try to win every single match, but maybe Arteta needs to be a bit creative with his rotation or the management with the substitutions, maybe give Madueke and Martinelli more minutes. And I think Martinelli could start over Trossard, for example. Also, Odegaard is back, so we could see that also play a big part. I think Arsenal just go for it in every single game. Let's see if they can get the results as well. So, actually, Dahl scored the opening goal and Richard Rios with the assist. So, we'll see how that Benfica game pans out. But yeah, that was my prediction for Benfica to win 2-1. It might even be a bigger scoreline than that. We'll wait and see. Yeah, thank you, Kuka, and to everyone else who liked the stream. Over 400 likes, and we still have over 400 people watching. Let me show you my Predict 6 stuff. And let's see how Davinson Sanchez is doing. I mean, I'm very greedy. I want to see some ball recoveries already. Yeah, I'm being a bit stupid there. Let's go to Predict 6 then. So let's start off with the first one. Marseille-Newcastle, I've gone for 2-2. Man City 3, Leverkusen 1. Then you might be thinking, why did you go for Donnarumma? Why not? Chelsea 2, Barcelona 2. Liverpool 2, PSV 1. I am considering giving them a clean sheet, but Liverpool have been so inconsistent this season. I've also gone for Arsenal 2, Bayern Munich 1. I mean, look, I'd love to say Arsenal go on to win the next 2 games against Bayern and Chelsea, and then the sky's the limit. And I think Arsenal can do it, but I think realistically it'll be 1 win and 1 draw. So it could be a draw here against Bayern, like a 2-2, and then hopefully beat Chelsea at the weekend. But I think that would be a good week there for Arsenal for sure. And then Atletico Madrid 1, Inter Milan 1. Let me know your predictions for Predict 6. I would like to see your thoughts as always. And yeah, I'll keep this on for a little while longer, maybe. Obviously, this poll I put out earlier on the channel was also covered. And yeah, Limitless was the winner with 46% in the end. No chip was second, and the wildcard was last. And now back to my UCL Fantasy team. And I'll be keeping an eye on the scores, as well as your messages and questions. There are still a few that I haven't gone through, actually. Yeah, Harvey Barnes, I was asked to buy him earlier as well. And by the way, if you are a member or patron, after the stream is done, you can watch the transfer tips for Game Week 13. That is already available to you. I posted it just before going live, and it will be published for all viewers tomorrow. And if you want to see a predicted lineups, best free hit squad, wildcard team, my own team selection, then let me know in the live chat. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Hit the notification bell to show your support and always stay up to date. But yeah, to speak about Harvey Bloody Barnes, he was mentioned in that transfer tips. And just like I said for FPL, I don't think Barnes is worth the investment in UCL Fantasy. Probably even more so in this competition because Gordon has been outstanding in this Champions League campaign with 4 goals so far. So Harvey Barnes is really just a punt against Marseille, and I think that game is quite difficult to call regardless. It would be Salah for me. I did like Sane a lot back in the day when he was at Bayern Munich, but yeah, Salah for me. Schlotterbeck will play. Foden hopefully does start. He is in my final Limitless team, and I might regret not going for McTominay instead. Why Jude over McTominay? Yeah, I think that's another possible regret I've got, but yeah, let's wait and see, right? How McTominay and Napoli fare later tonight. But Bellingham is in good form. He scored and assisted over the weekend, and he's the most informed Madrid attacker, with the exception of Mbappe, of course. I should really refer to midfielders in UCL Fantasy. Vlahovic or Kane? Vlahovic probably won't start, Luis, as I covered multiple times. Harry Kane is the pick. And you can also see my Limitless squad. If I preferred Vlahovic, he would have been in it. Foden or Bellingham? Foden, assuming he starts. Garassi or Højlund? Garassi. Yeah, Wednesday captain is simple. Mbappe. I'm not big on Davinson Sanchez, no. But just having that Galatasaray defensive coverage. Good luck as well, Hind. And thank you very much as well. Locked and loaded Osman. Did not copy, but almost the same. Look, that's fine. And sometimes we'll naturally gravitate towards the same players. But there are some people who just go for a team because someone else did. And what I'm trying to do is just, provide a platform to give team news, injury updates, my ideas and, observations, also mixing in data. And then with that information and with those kind of opinions and this discussion, you can then take some ideas and maybe build upon them and go for your own thing. But yeah, everyone's different. I took my punts in Aitner in Ekatike. Yeah, if Aitner starts, you would be very happy for sure. But I think that could happen, actually. And O'Reilly starts over the weekend against Leeds. Ekatike should start over Isak, but who knows with that situation. Thank you, Alexander. Gracias. Either way, it's too late. Deadline's gone. Yes, but I'm still answering these questions. And obviously, the rest now are, yeah, basically chill. Hopefully. Chill messages. Good luck and locked and loaded, Dylan. Good luck and locked in. Yeah, I absolutely butchered that, even though the words are right in front of me. Since my defenders were all out, decided to sell Trippier, Gabriel, Dumfries to Di Lorenzo, Rice, and Mendes for -4. I like that. I was looking at something similar with Mendes and Di Lorenzo and possibly Van Dijk, but I like that. Thank you as well, Morador, or Morado, and good luck. Good luck, amigos, says Glenn. Likewise. Good luck, mate, says Cooker2. And also Amkuto1974. Thanks. Good luck to you all. The same goes to you, mate. And hopefully Matchday 5 is a great one. Yes, indeed, Awale. And thanks for the moderation. I would have went Elise over Foden at the end, but the deadline is gone now. I think for Matchday 5, Foden is better, assuming he starts. But I think City could do a madness later with a lot of changes. Let's hope we don't regret it too much. I got McTominay too. Yeah, well, one of us could regret it with the McTominay thing. If he blanks, you'll be thinking, I should have gone for someone else. And if he scores, I'm going to be thinking, yep, I should have gone for McTominay in my midfield. But that happens, right? But I've got a good track record with the UCL Fantasy Limitless. But yeah, I think in terms of like expecting over 100 points and stuff in a week like this, it could be a low scoring week in general. So if the average is like 40 points, 50 points, and you get 70, 80, yeah, that is still a significant game. Man, my team sucks this week. I went for Tez and Kalulu. Yeah, they should both start, of course. They aren't too shabby, actually. They're massive differentials. I just don't really trust either team defensively. I went Pavla this captain. All the best to you. MMK1896 says, thoughts on my Limitless team. I'll be reading out whilst drinking water. Okay. Yeah, good luck to you as well. Esteval is interesting. I did mention him as my favourite Chelsea asset against Barcelona this week. Carreras is only a 1 week punt, of course. You're using the Limitless, but for those that are trying to invest in him long term, he is a suspension risk. But I do like your squad overall. I just don't trust certain players like Esteval because that game could have a lot of goals, but they could be spread around quite a lot. And also with the Monaco defenders against Paphos, I think Monaco could concede there, to be honest with you. But on the whole, it looks really good. You've got a double up in the Madrid defense with Carreras and Lunin. You've got Fermin Lopez, so no Yamal, but I think Fermin Lopez is the most informed Barca attacker, so looking really solid. I did McTominay instead of Foden and Saka over Bellingham. I was considering those two, especially McTominay. We'll see how it pans out. Tonaro puts his squad as well, or her squad, but yeah, don't want to take the piss either way. Donnarumma, Carnesecchi, Otamendi, Kirkes, Cambiasso, Di Lorenzo, Mendes, Bellingham, Yamal, McTominay, Kvaratskhelia, Salah, Haaland, Garassi, Mbappe. Yeah, Otamendi, good start so far, of course. Let's see if the clean sheets are maintained for Benfica and Galatasaray, and maybe Union Saint-Gilloise. Who knows at this point, but looking pretty good, actually. I'm surprised you went for Carnesecchi, though. I disagree with that pick. I understand why you've gone for Kirkes. He could start here, and then Robertson save for the Premier League. But yeah, I still think Konate and Van Dijk are better options because of ball recoveries. As for the rest, I think they're all great choices. With Cambiasso, that's more of like a punt, but a clean sheet against Bodo Glimt is possible. So I think that is still a solid choice. Which early match to watch? Probably Benfica Ajax, because they're both in a similar position. You know, before the game, Ajax were bottom and Benfica were 35th. And I think that game will have more goals in general or be maybe a bit closer in terms of the scoreline. I went similar, team on Limitless, but I went Chow and Sane instead of Chan and Bellingham. Yeah, I think a Newcastle defender looks good, more so for the long term though. I think Marseille will score a goal or two minimum. And with Emre Can, he's just a 1 week punt, and hopefully he gets a jammy penalty and scores it. That's kind of what I'm hoping for. And 60 plus minutes with some ball recoveries. Took a punt on Sane. Great graphics, mate. Keep it up. Thank you very much, Jack Billy. And I really like Sane. People used to think I had a crush on him or something because I always recommended him in UCL Fantasy when he was at Bayern Munich, but that was until his last season with the Bavarians. He dropped massively by that stage, and then I just found myself never talking about him again. But I think for this week he looks good. We'll see what he comes up with in the early kickoff. But yeah, I think Sane is still... he's got that potential to haul in any given game. But yeah, it looks good. Discover with Sim. Picking Jude and Foden at the end. Hope they bang it this game. Good luck, Dylan. Yeah, same here. And I'm quite concerned about the minutes with Foden, but hopefully it turns out okay. Good luck. Locked in. Well, let the show begin. This time ain't using no chip because I got none. Hope for the best. That's all we can do, really. Yeah, all we can do now is hope for the best. We've made our decisions. We've done the control part where we're micromanaging our team. And now it's up to the gods, if you will, or just with these players and managers and seeing how these matches end up going. Ended up taking Garassi as the third forward. Already regretting it. Let's wait and see how it pans out, right? But I do like Garassi. It's just over the last 10 games, 1 goal. Very, very poor form. I mean, last season, whenever I covered him, he was competing for the Champions League Golden Boot. He would have like 7 goals in the last 10, sometimes even 9 or 10 goals. He was on fire. Until October, that was the case, but I think for the past month or so, his form has dipped dramatically, I should say. Thank you, Grady4757. Watching from Serbia, give Dylan a like before you go. Cheers, mate. Very kind of you. And yeah, big up to you and also to your team, whether you support Crvena Zvezda or Red Star Belgrade or another team. Let me know. Maybe Partizan Belgrade. I'll be honest, though, I don't know too many other teams, but yeah, that's just me being a bit limited with that. Will Liverpool qualify for the Champions League next season? I still think they will, but it's looking very tough for them at the moment, sitting in 11th in the Premier League table. What's happened to Liverpool, really? Is it slot out finally? Well, we say finally. I mean, I get it because it's an 11-game spell. It's not like 3 or 4 matches. I think Slot will still be given time. I saw a report that he's going to be given until the end of the year. And if things aren't fixed, then we could see a change over Christmas. But look, Arsenal have a great opportunity. But people have said this last year. This is your best chance. You'll never have a better opportunity. The year before that, people said the same. And also the first season, Arsenal started challenging. But yeah, I think right now, Arsenal are in their own league, in my opinion. But we could see that change, of course, at the weekend. Because Chelsea could make a title race out of it. And at least, you know, put some pressure on Arsenal. But if Arsenal get a draw, I think even with that, a 6-point gap to them, obviously City would then close the gap to 5 points in that case. But I just think City are the only ones who can really compete with Arsenal this season. And they've already lost 4 games in the Premier League out of 12, which is far too many. So, yeah, Arsenal have to go on and win it. They've had a lot of injuries. They've coped very well. But there are some big games on the horizon, not just Bayern and Chelsea, but also in a couple of weeks, Aston Villa away. That's going to be very challenging, but Arsenal have all the tools to win those matches. Mauro Icardi has scored in 5 of the last 7 matches where he has played 45 plus minutes. That's a good stat. We'll see if he can do that today. So far, it is goalless in that game between Galatasaray and Union SG, but yeah, Icardi has a good goals per minutes ratio, and he was absolute quality at Inter Milan. Things just didn't turn out well in the end. Hi mate, my Limitless team, says Lucas Dunn. Haaland captain. I like all of those picks, to be fair. 2 Benfica is interesting. I went for Otamendi and Trubin in matchday 1. Wow, that was terrible. I also almost went for Pablo this as well, which would have been better than my Luis Suarez pick at the time. But yeah, the rest looks really good. Just a few reservations about double Benfica. But Ajax are terrible at the moment, so I understand why he went for it. Double Liverpool defence is also interesting. And no attackers. But they have been more solid defensively in the Champions League on the whole. Is Kvaratskhelia, Salah, Yamal, Foden, McTominay a good midfield? Well, I agree with you, mate. I've got 4 of them, and I wanted to get McTominay in as my final option. So, essentially the difference between us is Bellingham and McTominay. Yeah, I like that midfield. Went for this team on wildcard. Savic, Karnasecchi, Mendes, Sanchez, Gutierrez, Cambiasso, Rice, and Yilmaz, Cherki, McTominay, Bellingham, Kvaratskhelia, Kane, Haaland, and Mbappe. I like the look of that. Cherki is always a bit of a rotation risk, to be fair, but I think with the rest, you should get plenty of returns and also comfort with them when it comes to that. Champions League Fantasy, I prefer definitely this season. Yeah, same here. I mean, FPL, I've enjoyed it at moments, but yeah, the captaincy is so boring right now. And look, I'm usually quite template when it comes to captaincy. But in UCL Fantasy, you know, you've got the Tuesday, Wednesday thing. You can pick Mbappe, Kane, Haaland, and, you know, you've got a lot of options like Yamal, Fermin Lopez with his current form, Saka. Yeah, in FPL, it's just Haaland, really. And maybe this week we could go for Igor Thiago. I'll be talking about that very soon. But yeah, thank you, Wally, for updating the chat. That was a while ago now. I'm still catching up to, yeah, all these messages from before. But as Anish, Twisted Parky, and a few others said, like Ian Mayner, 002, yeah, Dal scored the goal. Not really fantasy relevant. If someone does have Dal, let me know in the live chat. And it's not Roald Dahl, it's Dal, the Danish fullback. Then perhaps Bellingham to Elise and Cherki to Marino. I don't think Marino by that stage will be a consistent starter, but Arsenal could also focus more on the Premier League and use a few squad players like Marino in the Champions League, so maybe that will work out well for you, but don't expect Marino to start up front once Gyökeres is back, which hopefully is very soon, but it looks like he won't feature against Bayern Munich. No worries about that, Lucas Dunn. Hey people, if you want to know if you can make a transfer in the Limitless, just do it and see. I bet it won't work. It's not the Club World Cup. Yeah, for some reason today, a lot of people ask this question, but it's like the free in FPL. You just can't do it. You know, people think it's like a loophole, a way of like, you know, thinking ahead of the game. You just can't do it. Julian Alvarez in place of Kane, not against Inter Milan for me. And yes, I know Arsenal are even better than Inter Milan, especially defensively, but Harry Kane, is more prolific than Alvarez. Bayern Munich are a better team than Atletico Madrid. So, yeah, I think Kane is still the better pick. Good luck as well to DG2911. And thank you to the others who also told me that Benfica scored like 10 minutes ago at this point. It worked for me last time, used my 2 transfers and then Limitless, player stay. I don't know why that would be the case though. And a few people have said that before. Yeah, if that's the case, then yeah, I wish I did that, but I don't know why that would be the case because I've seen other people say that it doesn't work for them. And then in FPL with a free hit, for example, it just never ever works in Club World Cup Fantasy 2. USG have started really well. As long as they don't score, I'm happy. I don't mind if it's a goalless draw. That's probably my preference, actually. I kept swapping between Icardi and Garassi. Probably should have kept Icardi. Well, so far so good, but I have a tendency to jinx things. Estoy muy mal en mi liga. Necesito tomar riesgos. ¿Qué me recomendarías para capitán riesgoso para que pueda ser una joya? Bueno, para el martes Foden es alguien que si empieza el partido tiene muy buenas chances. Para mañana puedes pensar en Harry Kane. Mbappé es muy obvio. Así que él no va a ser una opción para vos. Pero si quieres a alguien diferente, digamos. Kvaratskhelia contra Tottenham me gusta mucho. Bellingham. Salah, Saka. Estos jugadores están bastante buenos para la jornada 5. Dahl, who I removed from my team since I wildcarded, scored, of course. That is horrendous luck, to be fair. I mean, Ajax is a good fixture, but I still would have expected Ajax to score, and they might still go on to do that. But with the goal, the haul is already secured there for Dahl. Took up Foden for Yamal last minute. Long-term Yamal is better. Not for Matchday 5, though. What happened to Liverpool, really? Oh, yeah, that was covered. Thank you. My Limitless consists of Pavlidis, Yuri, Berice, Saka, Di Lorenzo, Van Dijk, Salah, Haaland, Nuno Mendes, Emre Can, Mbappe, Yamal. I like most of them. Just a few concerns with Berice, for example. I'm not that sure if Bilbao keep a clean sheet, personally. Okay, thank you, Dylan. Now I have to take a nap for some minutes to watch the Chelsea game. Yeah, no worries. I've done that before. Straight after a stream, I'll take a nap if possible. Not going to be the case this time round, but I will be watching Chelsea-Barcelona in a couple of hours. Oamara says, 17k rank. I went with Pavlidis, captain. Good luck. Very good rank and decent captaincy option for today. And you've always got the likes of Mbappe to fall back on tomorrow. So all the best. I massively hope for a Kane blank. So do I, even though I own him. But that's because Arsenal are always going to take priority over UCL Fantasy or FPL, as much as I like these fantasy games. Thank you, Ignacio. Yo he optado por McTominay contra Foden. Gracias, like always, mate. Thank you very much. And yeah, I also was thinking of Foden out for McTominay. If Foden is benched, it's going to be the first thing I think of. Why didn't I go for McTominay? Really excited to tease my friends after the Chelsea loss today. I'd be more excited about the weekend if they lose to Arsenal, but I've gone for a 2-2 draw. Yeah, we'll see. Predictions for Bodo versus Juventus. I said 1-0 earlier. I'll probably stick with that, but Juventus have been very poor. Also, I heard you say you are gifting 10 memberships sometime this month. So basically, I do it once per month. I usually do it as soon as possible, so at the beginning. So it won't be in November. It will be in the first couple of days in December. So keep your eyes peeled for that. And I'll be gifting 10 memberships. And, you know, very fortunately, a lot of legends of the channel, like Paredes, like Ahmed and Ahmad, and also Napstars, they've gifted so many memberships over the years. And it's very much appreciated. And I try to do my bit as well. Every single month. I sound like a... What was I doing there? That's my voice losing itself. Another average to shite week for FPL. I captained Saka, still didn't outscore anyone. Well, he did get Defcon though, so he scored 4 points, but in a 4-1 win, that's still very disappointing. Yeah, for me, it was a small red arrow. Very underwhelming and disappointing. Hoping I can keep my top 2,500 in the world rank up. Yeah, really good rank. Difficult to maintain, but it's certainly possible. And hopefully you can do so in Matchday 5. I don't think Højlund was a bad pick, but he's also not someone I look at and think, wow, we have to get him. And I just think we're struggling for that third standout forward. Haaland and Mbappe go without saying, but then the third one becomes more difficult. Harry Kane is the default one because of how good he is, but he's facing Arsenal away, of course. I cannot believe it. Had Dow as my Benfica defender for ages and then switched to Otamendi last minute. Guess who scores? Yeah, ouch. Normally Otamendi's the one scoring for Benfica amongst their defenders. Thank you, Banjo. I appreciate that, and hopefully more great shows to come. How many Emre Cans did you have while watching the Arsenal-Spurs game? 0, actually. Yeah, I actually haven't had a can for a while. Yeah. Maybe not as long as I would suggest, but it's been a month or so, probably. Thank you as well to 123 AUT Olik. Thanks for all your hard work every week, helping us to figure it out. I appreciate it. I just try to provide all the information and my opinions and data, but it's always nice to have these discussions, and when things are even more relaxed, it's even more enjoyable. I went against you and picked Otamendi as a centre-back. Yeah, it could work fairly well. I'm just wondering who you picked him over. Like if it was David Sanchez, they might end up getting the same scoreline by the end of today. I only have Elise available off the bench with Howson, De Bruyne, Chantus and Gabriel giving me a massive headache. Yeah, that's a lot of injuries. So if you had the chip available, even the wild card, I would have recommended using it. Need a Yilmaz goal, got him since 2 gimmicks back and hasn't done much. Yeah, same here. I mean, I don't have him now because I Limitless, but yeah, I did bring him in a couple of weeks ago and he has been a disappointment. He won a penalty in Matchday 4, but I think it was off a handball, so that's why he wasn't given the assist. Gimmick 13, I have triple captain chip active on Erling Haaland against Leeds. Yeah, I think that's the right call, but for those that also have the wild card and free hit, I'd be very tempted to use those chips as well. I've got a big decision to make this week. Either the wild card or the free hit will be activated in Fantasy Premier League, so this is a big week for both UCL Fantasy and FPL. Liverpool need to show up. I have Salah and Van Dijk. Yes, and this is a time where I don't mind if they win, to be fair. Got in Osman with a -4, and then had to take out Howson and Osman for another -8. Looking forward to next year. Look, I understand why people make early transfers, but when you've got an international break as well, you've got plenty of, cup games and also league matches going on. It's always important in UCL Fantasy, if you can, to hold out for as long as possible. And then by the time we get to Monday and then maybe Tuesday morning, that's when we have a clearer picture. And if you also have that added luxury of being able to tune into the deadline stream where I'm, going for all the information I've seen and also uncovering new things as we go, then you will basically have the full picture, the early kickoffs as well, of course, for the match day. And then you can make informed decisions and lock in, and you can prevent those unnecessary -4 hits. I was going to get Leroy, but would that be sane? Yeah, nice one. Haven't heard that in a while, to be fair. As if I removed Dal from my team for Otamendi and Dal scores. Yeah, you're still raging about that, aren't you? Unless it's someone else? I think it's the same person. Yeah, I mean, I'd be raging as well, to be honest. I'm not going to judge. Yeah. Oogie Boogie says, I really think Bodo could get a 2-1. Home advantage from the pitch conditions. Yeah, it won't be easy for Juventus, and they've been horrendous. I think 2 wins out of the last 10 games across all competitions. It depends if you want a hardcore FPL or want to have fun. Yeah, that's true. But, I don't know, in UCL Fantasy, particularly in the earlier stages, you have 36 teams to choose from. You've got the Limitless and Wildcard, and you get some massive score lines. I think it typically is higher scoring. You get some bonkers games. And I don't know, it just seems more enjoyable. The template is definitely less strong because in FPL, for example, you've got a lot more content and people are also copying what these creators are doing. And as a result, you're getting people kind of gravitating towards the same players all the time instead of just going for their own thing. I'm heading for the worst every FPL campaign and it's kind of depressing. It does seem like that for me as well, but I'm still quietly optimistic that I could, break into the top 100k and then hopefully build upon that and see where I can finish. But yeah, it's a bit stop-start recently. I'm kind of getting the small green and red arrows at around 500,000, so I'm kind of stuck a little bit. But that's where the wildcard and free hit could come into play. Liverpool tried, hoped he would slot in. Initially it seemed good, but it seems like it's not a snug fit. Yeah, but he won a Premier League title, right? So he has a bit of credit in the bank, but it's a massive drop-off for sure. Where was that Icardi stat before I made transfers? It's still 0-0 though, so not looking too bad. I think Carl from Bayern is someone to look at for matchday 6 and beyond, but against Arsenal, the only Bayern player I would like is Harry Kane, who is in my team. I actually risk going against Haaland again in FPL for Saka 2 weeks in a row. Got it right, but shame Saka only came away with DEFCON and not an attack and return 2 in a 4-goal game. Yeah, but at least you gain points from it on both occasions, right? Actually, maybe not. Well, not in game week 11 it would have been, right? Actually, yeah, because he only got 4 points. He missed the penalty against Liverpool. Yeah, so recently Haaland has tailed off a little bit, but I still got him captain in this game, and he's going to be my captain at the weekend. Boring, Dylan. Yeah, Hincapié, really impressive. To replace Gabriel like that, who is such a presence in these games. He's got 3 goals in North London derbies, and Gabriel is so important in both boxes. He's a leader at the back. But Hincapié has been very impressive whenever he's played for Arsenal, and I went to watch him live on his first start against Brighton, and he played very, very well. I believe it was his first start. He also obviously got the start against Slavia Prague. I think that was shortly afterwards, but yeah, he was very highly rated for a reason during his time at Bayer Leverkusen. You know, very solid for Ecuador as well. So yeah, I think Hincapié is a very quality defender. He should be signed on a permanent, you know, very soon. Andrea Berta did a madness with the way he secured that deal. He can play both centre-back and left-back, and Arsenal squad depth is giving them a great platform to win trophies. Good luck, Dylan. Great content and presentations. Thank you very much, Sondisto. Hopefully I've pronounced that right. 14 or 14. Big up to you. I have Kane, Haaland captain, and Rashford. I think Rashford might be on the bench, but even as a, you know, or with a short cameo appearance, he could get something against Chelsea there. If all these injuries remain, we are screwed next week. Yeah, true. I still need to sell Gabriel and Dumfries, and if people were able to do that thing of making transfers, then using the Limitless, and then having those transfers go through, they will have a massive advantage for sure. Hoping for a Barca performance later. Yeah, same here. I'm not a massive fan of Barcelona, you know, for several reasons, but in their pomp, you know, even when they had a few favourable decisions and stuff like that, they played some great football. And yeah, at their best, they can be a joy to watch. So against Chelsea, I would favour Barcelona to win that. A draw would be great, actually, because it keeps both of them kind of down there in mid-table. Kane blanking is a bit like Thiago missing second penalty on the weekend. Win-win situation. Exactly that. Exactly that. Galatasaray hit the post. Still 0-0. And Benfica are 1-0 up against Ajax. We could get a match of the season contender with Chelsea-Barca. Yeah, I think that game will be very open. I'm going for 2-2. I also think Arsenal-Bayern could be a fantastic match. In terms of quality, that could be one of the best so far this season. A bit like PSG-Bayern very recently. Of course, the red card changed things a little bit, but Bayern still got the result. Bye-bye, Dylan. We'll wait for your FPL stream. Hope you're free hitting or wildcarding this week. Well, the plan is to make videos for both of them, and I could even synergize them or kind of combine both of them into one video in a wildcard podcast, but I'll let you know in due course. And yeah, I want to also do a team selection, maybe predicted lineups podcast as well. The transfer tips is available for members and patrons, and it will be posted tomorrow for everybody else. And of course, on Saturday, I'll be going live for the deadline stream. I'm going to have an Emre, I'm guessing, yeah, Emre Can if he scores. Yeah, that's a good excuse to get a Can out. My FPL team this week: Kelleher, Calafiori, Munoz, Kanate, Sarr, Semenyo, Minter, Saka, Mbumo, Haaland, Thiago. Yeah, looks solid. We'll talk more about, you know, this in the deadline stream. But I think for this week, you don't need to do too much, to be honest with you. I just think long-term, Kelleher, Kanate, I think they're both sells. The rest are arguably holds. And let's see if Semenyo is available, because he wasn't even tested for the ankle injury because he was ill. And that's why he missed out against West Ham. But I think Semenyo could still be held on to. What do you think about delaying the free hit to 14? It is team dependent, but I'm more keen on using it in 13 because you prevent having Arsenal-Chelsea assets, and you might want some of them, particularly Arsenal players, you know, from Game Week 14 onwards. And with the Game Week 13 free hit, you can triple up on City. You can then go for 2 or 3 Brentford players against Burnley. You can also go for a Brighton player or 2, unless you're favouring Nottingham Forest in that fixture. So there are a few things to consider there, but yeah, I think the free hit could also be used in 16. That looks quite appealing as well. Triple captain, Haaland against Leeds, or wait for Sunderland, West Ham. I think West Ham looks good still. They're conceding 2 goals in every single match virtually, despite their recent upturn in form. But I would go for Haaland now against Leeds United. But wait until the game tonight, see how Haaland plays, you know, his fitness, you know, does he have any niggles and stuff, but I'd probably play the triple captaincy now. Any idea why Matchday 6 in UCL Fantasy is a 3:30 p.m. deadline? I think this has happened over the years. It's nothing necessarily too new. Let me just have a look. Oh, it's because the first game is between Kara and Mati and Olympiakos. Yeah, that's not great. Yeah. I mean, yeah, thanks for bringing that to my attention. I wasn't actually, I forgot about this because I did see the schedule before the season started. But yeah, it's because they're playing in Kazakhstan, the time difference, and yeah, Kara and Mati versus Olympiakos will be played at 3:30 p.m. in the UK. So I'm going to be going live very early, probably at 1:30 p.m. in the UK on the 9th of December. I'll keep you posted. I am 3.6 million though, apart from the first season, always been top 30k. Yeah, it's a good record, and it's becoming increasingly more difficult to get to that sort of rank on a consistent basis. Okay, so the slot pun didn't make you laugh. Yeah, I know, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just a miserable twat. Maybe it's just that. Oh yeah, welcome, yeah, Tonaru. Yes, Nick N. Because I saw it said new members. It said Tonaru, and in brackets it said Nick N. Yeah, my name is Tonaru95. Tuna means Ghana in English. Nice. Okay, very nice. Tuna is in Romanian. Pretty good stuff. Okay. I wasn't aware of that, but yeah, good to see you again. I don't know why YouTube changed the names. It makes it very confusing. Like Paredes is called SSED. And I'm like, who are these people? But I actually know them. Barca, my Spanish team, but more because it's versus Chelsea. Yeah, I get that. I mean, I used to like Valencia and teams like that because of the Argentinian players they had. But yeah, I mean, they have been poor for a while now. I predict Chelsea win tonight and hope Arsenal win tomorrow, although I imagine Kane scores. Yeah, it's a bit of a shame that Arsenal have conceded goals recently. I know Richarlison scored a worldie, but Zubimendi losing it in the midfield, Raya being so high up, I get it, it's the way we play, and Raya is an aggressive goalkeeper from that perspective, but yeah, hopefully Arsenal can tighten up a little bit with those mistakes and the complacency. I think they were shaky against Sunderland and they should have won that game as well, but you can't win them all, unfortunately. Yeah, also looking forward to a Free Hit 13 video as I'm on it this week. Yeah, so in order to get everything out, I might need to do another double recording. So yesterday I did a double recording, triple upload for UCL Fantasy. Today I did the recording for FPL, the transfer tips, and also this deadline stream. So another double recording, probably another double tomorrow, and then on Thursday to get everything out. So hopefully I can get that done. And yeah, on the Friday, maybe I can take a little day off, really. But it's kind of rare for me to take a day off with all the videos I make. So yeah, good to see FPL Kevy, Zero Slap, and all of you in the chat. Can't believe it's half free. Yeah, it's annoying. Because I'm also thinking about the FPL content I want to make and also getting the UCL Fantasy stuff on time. So I need to be on it that weekend. Yeah, can't have any late nights, really. No, I wasn't born in Argentina. My family are from there. I was born in the UK, but I've got dual citizenship and nationality. I'm going to get Ruben Diaz for Kanate. Thoughts? Is this an FPL? In UCL Fantasy, I would prefer Kanate, but yeah, in FPL, slight preference for Diaz, to be fair. Yeah. Are Arsenal still on track to beat Chelsea's defensive record? No. Not at the moment. They've, well, they considered twice to Sunderland, to Tottenham as well. So yeah, they've considered 6 goals. Yeah, I think they're just a little bit shy of that. Arsenal once conceded 17 goals in a Premier League season, and then Chelsea obviously broke the record, but it's possible, but a very, very difficult task to achieve. It's a very underrated, you know, record and feat, to be honest, what Chelsea did. Not my favourite. I think Invincibles is still the one that is so difficult for, you know, teams to do in a Premier League season over 38 games. But yeah, 100 points, you know, all these different ones you've seen. Obviously, Chelsea's 15 goals, Arsenal going unbeaten. They're all incredible in their own right. Good luck, Dylan and chat. Please like and subscribe. Thank you, Johnny. As he says, all of this goes a long way to supporting the channel, and it costs nothing. USG hit the crossbar, thankfully, because I want that Davinson Sanchez clean sheet. Yeah, Ellis Coyle, I did answer your question earlier in the middle of all the dozens of questions we had and stuff like that. But essentially what I said was try to enjoy the process, because that will allow you to do this long term, and ultimately you want to do something you're passionate about. In terms of like more tangible advice with what to do and stuff, you can use software like OBS, which is free. Use stuff like Canva to do graphics and thumbnails. The most important thing is to get out there, do stuff, because when I started, I had a cheap mic. I didn't even have a camera. The lighting as well, when I started showing my face, was horrible. I was using the sunlight, and in the UK, by the way, it's cloud, sun, so the lighting just changes all the time. So just get content out there, enjoy it, and then you can assess what's good and what could be improved, and then you can work through it in future videos and streams, and that can be your way of motivating yourself and just keep on going. Game Week 13, I consider Elliot Anderson in for Moises Caicedo. Well, he had a brilliant return in the previous game week against Liverpool, but I think Caicedo is still worth holding in certain situations, which I talk about in the transfers video, which is available for members and patrons today. I would rather use transfers on other areas, and I know midfield and the forward line, that's where you want to make transfers, but I think Caicedo to Anderson, it doesn't scream to me like a massive swing of points, if I'm being completely honest. And despite Caicedo having difficult fixtures, that could be good for him in terms of DEFCON. Went for a Copenhagen defender as a differential in Limitless, but honestly don't even know who starts, and not for them. Yeah, I get that. I think Kara and Mati could score, but yeah, I looked at their defenders and the returns they got. It wasn't great. I think Larson, who plays up front for them, is probably the best asset on the Limitless, but a clean sheet is still possible. They are second in the clean sheet odds, only behind Napoli. Thank you to Stepaki. I'm not even sure what we're on right now, but yeah, I will be wrapping up because I've been going live for the past 3 hours or so. But yeah, we already got to over 400, which was the aim. 500 is a big push, of course, but I do appreciate those that have tuned in. Yes, a ring light makes a huge difference. Yeah, so it might look like I've got a ring light. I actually don't. I've just got two. I mean, they're lights that can be used for like esports and gaming, but yeah, they are two lights that you can attach to the table, and they provide a good light source. I've also got one at the back, which changes the kind of the theme and mood. And you will see a different color scheme actually in the Transtits video for tomorrow. So it's not a blue color, which you have seen in all my videos for the past year. Does a green screen make a difference? I haven't used one. I actually do have the facilities for that. Even with space, I can make that work. But yeah, you need to have a lot of light with a green screen. And if the green screen is well lit, then you can have a good performance there, and you won't have, kind of weird things happening there and inconsistencies with the visuals. But it can make a difference. I just like the kind of graphics and stuff that I've set out. I haven't ruled it out, and I have thought about buying a green screen and, having different scenes at least, so I can change things up even more. But I think I've already got plenty of variety, and, with all the graphics I've kind of made over the last year or two, I think the foundations are well set. Yeah, no worries, 00, but, I mean, a green screen can be used for a lot of different things, primarily for, content. Even they use it in films and TV, but yeah, I haven't really used it so far, but I've done a lot of research on it because I was looking to buy one. I think I'll still probably wait and focus on other areas of my content. Yeah, I watched Ted Lasso. It's very popular. I do like some parts of it, but yeah, I don't know. There were moments where I just maybe expected more in terms of believability or stuff like that, but it is a good way for people to be introduced to the sport, especially from America. Personal preference, in my opinion, sometimes green screens look cool and professional. Sometimes it's nice to see natural background and see into someone's world, if that makes sense. Yeah, I think having a mixture is good, and that's why I was thinking of maybe one day getting a green screen and, having just something different. So it kind of keeps things fresh in a way. But yeah, at the moment, I just haven't felt a need to really introduce it. Instead, I've actually invested in more lights and improve it that way. So then I can turn down the ISO on my camera and then have better image quality. So I've been focusing on that recently, and also the graphics. Yeah, I watched Better Call Saul. I'm actually I need to stop saying actually. I'm watching Justified right now, and I do like it. I actually thought you had a green screen right now, Dylan, with a blue background. No, that's just the light behind me. Yeah, it's not a green screen. So yeah, there are so many different ways to light up your video and to, have visuals, you know, with the camera, with the lighting, the setup, the angles, but that's kind of something I've had in place for the past year. The only difference now is that I've got an extra light in front of me, and also behind me I changed the color a little bit, the RGB, so it's a bit darker blue, if you might have noticed from before, and you will see a different color scheme for FPL, but not massive differences, just small incremental changes to keep on improving. How do I get people to watch my YouTube videos for FPL though? Well, it's increasingly more difficult now because of the sheer volume of content, but I think consistency is key. Now, in other sort of genres, I think people, for example, might post once a week or once every 2 weeks. In FPL, it's a bit different. I think in order to grow, I think it's a little bit like you need to post several times a week. And in my case, I sometimes do it one per day, really, double, triple uploads at times. I'm not saying you should do that, but that's a good way to increase, you know, your chances of getting views. And you need to also find something that people haven't done yet. For example, I've tried to do predicted lineups, and that's something I've done quite consistently for the past year, even with other fantasy formats as well. And in UCL Fantasy, for example, I was the first person to do deadline streams, and also the first one to do Limitless and wildcard squads every week. Even for FPL, I was the first one, or one of the first, to do wildcard videos every week, and, you know, kind of have my own set structure. So try to find your own identity, and maybe find a piece of content to separate yourself from the rest of the pack, and just keep working at it, and you improve over time. Once the quality improves, more people will tune in, but there's never a guarantee, right? And because there's so much competition, it's not always going to be easy. I watched Breaking Bad like 4 times. Is Better Call Saul worth it? Yes, you will absolutely love it. If you love Breaking Bad to such an extent that you've watched it 4 times, you're going to love Better Call Saul. Some people even prefer that over Breaking Bad. I like both of them personally. I think Breaking Bad would still be above, but yeah, they're both top tier shows. Yeah, Common Pad with this Don't Let Me Down. Good luck with that. Yeah, 4 times a week is very consistent. When I started, I did like a range of content. So I did like gaming, I did Arsenal, Premier League predictions, and then I did FPL. And the ones that got most views was FPL, and I enjoyed it, so I just gravitated towards that. But I'm still quite open-minded to doing content about other things in the future. I think you are differential, Dylan, because of your reaction streams, in my opinion. Yeah, thank you. I mean, that's something else. I mean, I know others also do reactions now, or they do streams of a similar ilk, like knee-jerk streams. But yeah, for a while now, I've been doing those reactions, so people kind of know what to expect. And usually on a Saturday or Sunday night, I'll be going live, talking about the games with my raw takes. There is a new Breaking Bad canon series coming in December. I heard something about it, but I don't know many details. I'll have a look. I thought Sanchez should have had a ball recovery. He was on 2, but updating now, and he's had 1 removed. The amount of times that I check on UCL Fantasy and a player has a ball recovery point, or he's close to getting the next one, and then it's removed. Yeah, I mean, it's a very common thing. And let's not even get started on FPL, where they took away the Lacroix defensive contributions. He went from 10 to 8, so then I lost those 2 DEFCON points, and that was actually the difference between a green or a red arrow. But it is what it is, right? They are basing it off Opta stats, and it can be inconsistent at times, the way that UCL Fantasy and FPL calculate these things. But thank you, everyone. It has been a blast. We are at halftime in the early kickoffs. It's Galatasaray 0, Union Saint-Gilloise 0, and Ajax 0, Benfica 1. If you haven't already, like this video, subscribe to my channel, and also hit that notification bell so you're always up to date on my content, both UCL Fantasy and FPL, which I'll cover until the end of the season. Follow me on X, Instagram, and Blue Sky, DylanRCM, and check all the links in the description for my Patreon and the championships, further likes to my videos, proud to comments, amongst many other perks. My Discord server, the UCL Fantasy League, and Spotify can also be found in the description. I'll see you on Saturday for the next FPL deadline stream. Matchday 6 content will return in a couple of weeks' time, and there is a predicted lineups out for members and patrons already, and it will be posted for everybody else very soon. And if you want to see more content, like a predicted lineups for Game Week 13, the best free hit squad, and wildcard team on top of the usual team selection, then let me know in the comment section and the live chat. Take care, enjoy the football. I wish you all the best of luck for Matchday 5 and the rest of the season, and I'll see you on Saturday for FPL.